Good morning, Denver. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, morning. How are you?
We're bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's going to be a warmer day here in Colorado, high of 52, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussion, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is the only show in Denver where you're heard loud and clear. You're not going to be listening to a monologue. You're not going to be listening to just the news. This is your perspective broadcast across the city of Denver. So grab your coffee and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. It's been a wild evening with news, everything from RFK's VP pick, which we'll be covering in the 6 o'clock hour, to details on this Ronna McDaniel settlement. I just saw this. This is wild.
Oh, it's crazy.
How much she's going to get paid. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't see that. But if she's getting paid a pile of cash, that means she should really, really make sure that she sends a gift basket to her agents. I hear her agents have dropped her, though. But even then, still, send them a gift basket because it is their negotiation that allows for that giant check for you to walk away.
Okay, so you ready for this?
Yeah.
So, but by the way, before I get into how much she's going to get paid,
we called this morning. Oh, yeah.
If you remember, we called this, and I've got a video up on Twitter detailing this, that she was not going to last at NBC. My theory is she was going to have to turn into a Trump critic in order for her to be successful.
Yeah.
She didn't fully embrace that, and her fellow reporters at NBC didn't like that. Now, they'll come up with lots of other reasons why, but that's my theory at the end of the day. But listen to how much she's going to get paid. It's a 2-year contract at $300,000 annually, which means it was a one-time interview for $600,000. They even broke it down to the minute. She earned $30,000 per minute or $500 per second.
Jeez. And I just look at the idea of, again, she got paid $600,000 and that covers expenses in theory based on the contract for her for 2 years. You got a 2-year vacation now. I mean, it's I don't understand the anger about this. He was doing this before and people were mad.
So the frustration is over NBC. Here's their argument as to why she couldn't remain.
Yeah.
This is from the chairman of the NBC News Group. No organization, particularly a newsroom, can succeed unless it's cohesive and aligned. Over the last few days, it has become clear that this appointment undermines this goal. Cohesive and aligned.
Yeah.
So the frustration is just everybody knows that the mainstream media leans hard to the left. I would. This is why I'm never going to get a job at Channel 9. They would come up with the same argument. It's not cohesive and aligned in our newsroom.
Well, the thing is, they signed her, so I disagree with that. The reason for the cohesive and aligned are legal words, so that they can avoid any further lawsuits from Ronna. And she's already talked about the fact that she is going to sue them,
over a hostile work environment.
Yeah, and the legal and the aligned part of it, I find it interesting that everyone immediately jumps to politics. That's the assumption. And
what else would it be?
The fact that they were left with a dead asset. That's the core problem. The reason she's being let go today is because she became a dead asset on the books, and I'll explain. I will be willing to put down $1 million in Vegas that this is how the conversation went, because I've been involved in these conversations in the industry. And it is, this person is now a part of our team. Some people in that conversation get very, very upset. No, what are you doing? How could you possibly hire that so-and-so, blah, 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 whatever. You get angry about it. And the people in charge say, listen, they're part of the team, but none of you is forced to book them or have them on your show or program.
Yeah.
We would like you to, but we're not telling you have to. So we know immediately MSNBC said, nope, no way, no how. And not surprising. Everybody in NBC, and they're very public about it. And again, I'd be willing to put the $1 million down on the table that everybody on NBC said, it's great. I'm not booking her. That the host of the show and the people there said, "Great, I'm not booking her."
Why not just keep her around in case perspectives change? I mean, you're going to have to pay anyways.
I know, but that she's a dead asset, so that she's on the books, etc. And there's a go-away clause inside of that. And what they had to do is balance the idea of, okay, how much is this go-away clause going to cost us versus having her sit on the sidelines, and we're going to be writing a check to her for 2 years, and she's going to be doing bupkis, which is a great gig if you can get it. I would love to have that, and there's several listeners who would like me to have that gig. So they wouldn't have to listen to what comes out of my mouth anymore. But that's the issue. See, the aligned portion for me is more about goals of the newsroom, etc. It's not necessarily politics. I understand why everybody read it that way. But when you said it to me, the first thing I thought about is, oh, no one's going to book her. No one's going to put her on the show.
They're saying, Politico's saying they're going to have to fully pay out her contract anyway.
Yeah,
so
it could. It depends, again, if her agents wrote it so that she had 100% guarantee.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are studs, because that almost never happens. It's always a portion. Normally it's a proportionality,
right?
And sometimes there's a mathematical proportionality based on how long have you been employed, and then we're going to take a percentage of the list. Or it's just a flat, hey, if you're fired this much into the term, it's this fee, this much into the term, it's this fee, this much into the term, it's this much. The fact that they negotiated full payout, you have my respect. That is hard to do.
But
that is really hard.
What about going to the point that the left really doesn't embrace any type of alternative thinking? Because that's the critique from the conservatives on this, is like, this is what we deal with in the media.
Well,
is that they say they want to have conservatives on, but you've got to be the right type of conservative. You've got to fit this mold. There's no ideological diversity.
But was Chuck Todd's critique of Ronna McDaniel about that, or was it about the truthfulness of her statements and attacking the journalists? That's what the statement was about. And I understand everybody's like, oh, they're canceling us. They're canceling us. No, the Chuck Todd outlined it, that Ronna McDaniel's dealings with the press have not been truthful. And you have an argument that she is also part of the scheme that attempted to overturn the election. So that's an issue. I don't see this as NBC saying, no conservatives ever. They're just saying that the newsroom has come and said, yeah, the one that doesn't lie. Well, the one that didn't come out and say, the election was stolen. And the one that didn't come out and say computers and Hugo Chavez, and one that didn't go and say, we need to foment a plan to put forward alternative electors in order to get 100+ Republican lawmakers on board in order to illegally violate the Constitution and overturn an election. She's not this open political commentator. That's not her. That's never been her role. Her role has been a mouthpiece for the NRC.
You think that journalists have just now discovered a spine to deal with people that question election integrity?
No.
In my video, I list out pretty much every Democrat ever has questioned the legitimacy of elections.
Yeah, here's the thing, though, is that is not equitable. And the reason why, and here's why. Yes, Hillary Clinton.
Because they didn't get electors.
No, yeah, they didn't have a plan. If you show me the Democrats putting together a plan over several months.
It was 2020 election. That was their plan.
What? No, that's not, no. We're not going to do that. The issue being that Ronna McDaniel, if you show me, again, Hillary Clinton complained that the election was stolen.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
but
2016.
She didn't. Yep, exactly. She did, and I acknowledge that.
And then you just think they quietly went away in 2020?
Did Hillary, do you have a plan from Hillary? Did she contact the DNC? Did the DNC put forward alternate electors? Did the DNC take out, or Hillary Clinton take out, an advertising campagn based on false, based on fraud?
2020 election was a response to that.
Did they do? Again, do you think the entire 2020 election was legitimate? Was Joe Biden elected legitimately?
So there's a difference between.
There shouldn't be a pause there. It's either fraud, yes or
no. No. There's a difference between fraud and engaging in election fraud, and then conspiracy to change an election. Because for you to say that 2020 was fully legitimate, right? To say that, you have to argue that all the social media engagement, that all the Google engagement was perfectly neutral in 2020, which it wasn't.
That's never. Hang on a sec. How does social media or Google engagement invalidate an election? Explain that one to me.
Because you're arguing that it was perfectly legitimate. 2020 was perfectly legitimate. Where the social media
there's no widespread fraud. There's no widespread fraud showing fake votes. Is there any widespread fraud showing fake votes? Anything at all showing widespread fraud and fake votes? Anything?
Again, we get into this pretty much every day.
That's a yes or a no. It's a yes or no question.
No.
Either there is widespread fraud
or there isn't. You're conflating terms. You're conflating terms.
No, I'm not. The legitimacy of the election is based on fraudulent ballots. We don't have widespread fraudulent ballots. That's a legitimate election. You can be mad about influencing the election over social media and other things, and whether
it was perfectly legitimate for them to do that. Was it right for Google to adjust the algorithm so that Democrats came out more favorably than Republicans?
You have no proof that Google went in and adjusted the algorithm.
There's plenty of research on that.
No. There's research showing that based on search terms and things, what happens. There's no research showing that Google went in there and manually manipulated the algorithm to put their thumb on the scale. And the example I have of this is the conversation we had a number of weeks ago with a caller about how come my emails from the RNC always end up in my Google spam filter and the DNC comes right through. Mm-hmm. Well, the Google came to the RNC and said, stop making your email so spammy. And the RNC said, no, change your rules so that our stuff gets through. That's what they want. Google's saying, this is our gateway. This is our system. Here's how you get around it. And they said, no, you have to do what we want. And that's what I'm hearing from you as well. No, the social media companies have to do what I want them to. And if they're not doing what I want them to, then it's illegitimate and it's a stolen election. That's not logical, nor can you prove that case in any way, shape, or form. It's not. And that's the issue. We had a legitimate election. Ronna McDaniel said it wasn't. She fomented a plan in order to overturn it against the will of the people and the Constitution. She is not a genuine, legit actor in this conversation. It's an issue.
Bill, I would believe that the journalists were deeply committed to sustaining the integrity of our elections if they treated Democrats the same way, and they just don't. They just don't.
See, again, you're looking for equity, which is very strange, because just like this is what I'm hearing is that people are mad. People want diversity, equity, inclusion rules inside of NBC. We've got to have some sort of a tally. We got to make sure that we have a certain number of conservative hires. NBC's never said they won't have any conservatives on. They just said the newsroom said it's not
type of conservatives that bash Donald Trump. So my theory is they've got to be the ones that bash Donald Trump.
The one that doesn't lie. That's the one that gets hired and stays there. The one that doesn't lie. Ronna lied, and she has to deal with that. That's on her. No, she did.
Those journalists are constantly lying.
But no, they're not the same way Ronna did. Ronna made direct lies. There are journalists that color things and change. But if the journalist lies, you can take them to court for it. So the idea that you're just blanketly saying all NBC reporters are liars, that's not proven.
No.
You just said that. You said all Houston reporters lie.
No.
They don't.
You're hammering and saying that NBC should keep Ronna McDaniel, is legitimate to keep Ronna McDaniel off the air because she, quote, lies. And because she questioned the integrity and sanctity of our elections.
She lied about it. She lied about it and tried to overturn it. That's an issue. I wouldn't put that person on the air. NBC can choose whoever the heck they want.
Hillary Clinton shouldn't be on the air. Joe Biden shouldn't be on the air. Kamala Harris shouldn't be on the air.
Can you show me?
I can keep going. Bill Clinton shouldn't be on the air.
Where is Hillary Clinton's plan to get fake electors? Where's Bill Clinton's plan? Where's Biden's plan? Where's Obama's plan?
The Steele dossier, the attack on Trump, Russia collusion. And the lights are and the phones are already lighting up. We haven't even gotten into the news. All right, let's get to Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. The omission of Hunter Biden's story also.
Yes.
Good morning, guys. 29 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the lower 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, 2 roadside workers on I-70 and Wheat Ridge seriously injured on Tuesday after a car crash. So slow down this morning and use caution on your way to work and school, especially in construction zones.
To the victims of this tragedy and their loved ones, all of our hearts are broken. We feel your loss. We're thinking of you, and we will always be thinking of you.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore, the search for 6 missing Baltimore bridge workers was suspended Tuesday night because of diminished visibility and treacherous currents in the busy harbor. Divers returning to the Baltimore harbor this morning to look for the people presumed dead after the cargo ship hit the bridge. This will affect trade.
Last year, over 47 million tons of foreign cargo passed through Baltimore Harbor. Officials on Tuesday said maritime traffic through the port is being suspended until further notice after a loaded cargo ship plowed into a bridge crossing the harbor. The head of the Institute of Export and International Trade said the suspension could have a significant ripple effect on global supply chains. He told the BBC that over 750,000 vehicles moved through Baltimore last year, noting that Baltimore is also a major exporter of liquefied natural gas for Europe. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The Glendale Police Department asked the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office to investigate an incident involving at least 2 Glendale officers. The details about why are not clear at this time. Plenty of Coloradans have been victims of auto theft, especially the past 3 years. In Minneapolis, the genius AG, Keith Ellison, he doesn't blame the criminal. He blames the car makers.
We've also got to go upstream. We've got to make sure that the automobiles are not so easy to steal so that they're a tempting, attractive nuisance for young people. And, right now we are investigating 2 major automakers because their cars are dramatically too easy to steal for young people.
Wow. The left never ceases to amaze me. Police still searching for the suspects in a deadly shooting at a house party in Commerce City. The shooting happened just before 2 o'clock Sunday morning and left 18-year-old Shiloh Bennett dead. 2 other people were wounded. Commerce City police still working to identify the suspects, and anyone with information on the shooting should call their tip line. This is the only state that doesn't demand workers to prove that they're qualified to handle human remains, but a new bill aims to change that by requiring funeral directors to be licensed. That means graduating from a mortuary science school, passing an exam, completing a background check, and serving an apprenticeship for at least a year. Sounds like a good idea. A Senate committee approved the bill Tuesday after listening to testimony and now advances to the next step. News is brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 25 in Boulder, 26 in Highlands Ranch, 29 in Denver. Independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. has chosen his running mate, 38-year-old tech entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan.
Many Democrats, we still believe in those ideals, but unfortunately, as an institution, it has lost its way.
Yes, it has. Nuggets go for 5 straight tonight in Lodo. The Suns in town. Avalanche lose to the Canadians 2-1. 9-game win streak comes to an end. Opening day for the Rockies tomorrow night at the Diamondbacks. It's Hump Day, Wednesday. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
710 5-day forecast calls for a bit more of a spring-like pattern for Denver in the Front Range. Still a touch cool, but a little warmer, near 50 today. Partly cloudy, upper 20s tonight. Warming to the lower 60s Thursday, then temperatures on Friday about 60. Friday afternoon and evening and Friday night will bring a chance of showers. Still mild, making the 60s Saturday and Sunday, but areas of rain and snow Sunday night into Monday, and Sunday night and the Monday and Tuesday will be much cooler. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, phone lines already starting to light up. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Here's the question I have for you. Is the firing of Ronna McDaniel after one interview indication that the news media is just radically left and unwilling to accept anybody that's not cohesive and aligned? Or were they justified in their critique saying we're not going to hire somebody that believed that the 2020 election was rigged? Tony in Littleton, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, good morning. I on a couple issues around that. First of all, I think they were in the right to say that McDaniel can't be a part of their broadcast because she had a role in it. She literally contacted the Michigan Republicans and said, do not validate the election. She was a part of the attempt to overturn the election, not just kind of a bystander. She was involved. So I think they have every right to say, no, we're not going to allow that on our network. That goes against everything we believe. So, and they have had in the past Republicans. In fact, the guy who's on the air on this channel, I can't think of his name, before you guys come on in the morning.
Hugh Hewitt.
Hugh Hewitt. They've had Hugh Hewitt had a stint on MSNBC for 6 months or a year. So they do bring Republicans on. They don't have a problem with it. Now they might now with him, because if they view that he had a role in that, or was arguing that the election was stolen, or they're not going to allow that on the air. I mean, because the general media believes that is a lie. It's simply a lie. It's not true, and they're not going to allow somebody to come on and use airtime to lie.
Tony, I got a question for you. Do you think then, under that thinking, that NBC should make sure that none of the 51 intelligence agents that signed the letter arguing that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation should be allowed on, because they knew it was Hunter Biden's laptop, and still signed the document engaging in election interference to make sure that this was not used in the 2020 election?
I don't know enough about that, so I'm not gonna speak to that issue. I can't, because I don't know enough about it. The other issue that you raised, and I thought was interesting.
But I mean, I want to say,
I can't speak to it.
But if that's the case, if these former directors of the CIA knew that Hunter Biden's laptop was not Russian information, but engaged in election interference in order to make it look like that, should they? If that was the case, do you think NBC should keep them off?
If that were the case, but I don't even know that to be true. I mean, what you're saying, I don't even know that to be true.
Well, Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't Russian information.
You're coming to a conclusion, Jeff, that the people that signed that letter knew it was false. We haven't had any information proving that yet.
They absolutely knew it was false. How did they know it was Russian information? They didn't. There's no evidence that was Russian disinformation.
What we had Rudy Giuliani, who was already contacted by Russian intelligence. He was already under surveillance because he was communicating with Russian intelligence. He's actually admitted through Lev Parnas that they were communicating with Russian intelligence and floating a fake narrative about Hunter Biden. That was already known inside the intelligence community. And then days before an election, Rudy Giuliani gets his hands on a purported laptop that just happens to have damning information about Hunter Biden. Based on the pattern of behavior they had seen, it was likely to conclude that what Rudy was pushing about Hunter, based on what he'd been pushing previously, is likely false. That is a likely conclusion at that point. That's why they did it. That's it. Done. Until you can show me information that they actively knew it was wrong and then came out and said something different, okay. But the argument that they just made an incorrect conclusion based on the information available is not persuasive.
Go ahead, Tony.
That's the best. I mean, I can't speak any more to it than Billy just did. The issue that you raised earlier, that I heard you guys talking about, was, based on the count. The votes were Biden won. And you were starting to raise this point. Well, it was not really fair because media, was jaded in one way or another. Okay. Well, in 2016, Trump won. He got the votes. He not the popular
Hillary
vote,
Clinton
but he
called him an
won.
illegitimate president.
Hold on,
had no plan to overturn the election.
Let me get this on the table.
Yeah, by Trump and Ronna.
We also know with 100% certainty, the Russians were influencing social media, trying to help Trump win. Our intelligence knows that. The Senate bipartisan panel knows that. The Mueller investigation knows they were trying to help him win. But I'm not sitting here saying, well, because they tried to help him win, that wasn't a fair election. He got the votes necessary to win the Electoral College. So the vote was the vote, and he won. And while you say Hillary was saying he's an illegitimate president, come election day, she was sitting on the dais along with the Obamas to welcome in and transfer power to
And then
Trump.
Immediately, even before he took office, they launched investigations against Donald Trump, claiming Russian collusion. They sought 2 illegitimate impeachments while he was president. Don't give me this baloney that they somehow sat by and just, well, we claim that the election was rigged and that he was an illegitimate president, but they didn't do anything. For 4 years, they interrupted his presidency.
Jeff, and the investigations that went on did prove out that the Russians were indeed trying to influence the election.
But you guys are going from that to collusion. You argued that there was collusion with the Trump campaign, and none of that took place.
I just want the fact to be accurate on this. Mueller did not say that collusion did not exist. Mueller said, and it's in the executive summary of part 2 of that report, page 1 of that executive summary, we could not prove collusion in large part because several of the witnesses would not cooperate with the investigation, which those witnesses were also pardoned by Trump. So we don't know for a fact there wasn't collusion. It certainly looked like collusion was possible. There was certainly a lot of
that's because Hillary Clinton's campaign put out the Steele dossier, which was false.
But the Steele dossier is not used in the Mueller report and isn't referenced.
It was not.
It's not referenced in any way, shape, or form.
That was the entire basis for them going after Donald Trump with Russian collusion.
No, not at all.
Yes, it was.
No, it was the advisor that opened his big mouth when he was drunk, talking to the person from Australia. That's where it started.
I swear I live in an alternate reality that somehow...
Yes, you live in an alternate reality where the Steele dossier has been invalidated.
Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump an illegitimate president and then just sat around for 4 years.
She may have called him an illegitimate president, but she did not try to overturn the election.
And then the Hunter Biden laptop story was just, they thought it was Russian collusion because of Giuliani, and these guys knew exactly what they were doing. Twitter censored the story. This was corruption in an election by government officials, and you guys are willing to just blow that all right by as if they're all innocent actors.
Do you have any information showing that the government censored the story, or was it a decision made by the private companies? Do you have any information showing the government came in?
Yeah,
and they were
because Twitter just decided to do that all by themselves.
No, answer my question, please.
This is amazing, guys.
Answer the question.
In your world, the Democrats are like innocent little bunnies.
No, not at all.
Sit out there
never made that argument.
In a field, happily munching away on their little, pieces of grass.
You're making allegations I never said. Never said any of that.
51, many including intelligence officers, former CIA officers.
Yeah.
And you're like, Twitter came up with this by themselves?
No. You said the government made them do it. Show me the government made them do it. Show me. That's all I'm asking for. Elon owns the company.
I don't know what you're talking about. The government made them do it.
Well, your argument was that the government censored the story. Show me that the government censored the story.
I don't know if I said the government censored the story.
Yes, you did. You said the government didn't allow us to go out. Yes.
I don't remember saying that.
Okay.
Maybe I did, but that's
incorrect.
But I mean, the idea that these guys somehow were perfectly justified in believing there was Russian disinformation, that Hunter laptops was Russian disinformation.
Did you listen to what Lev Parnas said when he was testifying recently?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, that's an issue. We should go to a break. Lev Parnas. We can play his audio afterwards. I'd be more than happy to. Hey, Tony, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Yeah, we should go to break. I'll play the audio afterwards. I'll find it. and we'll see what he said.
I don't know
about
why
working with
you're
him.
constantly changing the subject here.
No, I'm dealing with the Russian disinformation. You just made an allegation about why everybody believed that Rudy Giuliani was trafficking Russian disinformation. And then when the laptop appears in his possession,
Yes.
days before the election, why the assumption by the intelligence community that it was Russian disinformation? Because Rudy had been trafficking in Russian disinformation for years. And his associate testifies in Congress that that's exactly what they were doing at the directive of Russian intelligence. The entire Burisma story, the entire story about Joe Biden's corruption in Hunter in Europe is Russian disinformation. And his cohort that did it with him testified in Congress and said it out loud in public.
Does that justify 51 intelligence officers coming out with a letter that was clearly wrong, Bill?
Okay,
It was a wrong letter.
Let's walk through
The
this again.
CIA, the former director of the CIA was wrong.
Yes.
And
at
then
that time,
Twitter,
yes, it was wrong at that time.
totally randomly on their own, decided to kill the Hunter laptop story and prevent people from retweeting it.
A private company made that determination based on information that was available at the time. It's not you guys. Let's walk through this again. We have concrete information that Rudy Giuliani was getting fed stuff from Russian intelligence, that he was pushing false narratives. We have concrete information on that. And then Rudy shows up days before the election and has a magic laptop. And it seems to be connected to Russia at that time because of his conversations. It is harming. His entire investigation that was false was based on Hunter Biden. And then he shows up with proof against Hunter Biden. Again, no crimes on that laptop show anything connected to Joe Biden. There are no Joe Biden crimes on there. And at that time, based on the behavior of Rudy, that's what they concluded. It was wrong, but it is reasonable. If someone else would have shown up with that laptop, chances are it could have been treated differently. I would bet it would have been treated differently, but Rudy had it. If you don't know what Lev Parnas said about it, that's an issue, because Lev actually, he outlines very clearly, we were getting told what to say from Russia, and Rudy knew it and was okay with it. That's his testimony under oath in Congress.
It's amazing how you will justify they got that wrong. I don't care if there's a whole bunch of other stuff. They got that wrong.
I know, but you have to understand the decision-making process that got there. And that's the decision-making process. That's why that decision, it's not that the federal government, it's not that Joe Biden came in and said, oh my God, you've discovered all my crimes. Oh, tamp it down, suppress. It's not what happened. That's not what happened. I understand that's because you talk about the fact that you're living in a different world. What I hear is that, yes, you're in that world where you think that happened. That is not what happened based on the timeline. That's not what the facts show us. It's difficult. You can't fight against time. Just like the Burisma thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know exactly.
All right.
Just like the Burisma
We'll go
thing.
to a commercial
For 3
break.
years, we've been dealing with Burisma, and the timeline disproves the entire narrative. Not me. Time. Argue against time.
Text messages here. You guys need to order your Donald Trump Bibles.
We'll get to that one.
We are going to get to that one. I love the fact he's doing that. All right. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julie.
All right, we've already kicked it off this morning. We're talking Ronna McDaniel and whether or not NBC was justified in keeping her off the air after one interview.
Yeah, should she be part of their DEI initiative? Does she have to be there for diversity?
I raised the point, if the argument is that she engaged in election interference, because as the chairwoman of the RNC, should NBC make sure to keep off the 51 intelligence officers that signed the letter, the incorrect letter, that it was Russian disinformation. Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. I just pulled up testimony to the Judiciary Committee from former CIA Deputy Director Michael Morell. He said that the letter was organized by Secretary of State, now Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He played a role in the inception of the public statement signed, and that there were two motivations for that letter. One, to help Vice President Biden in the debate, and two, to assist him in winning the election. That was the purpose of that letter.
Repeat that again, please.
The purpose of the letter, according to Morell, who is former CIA Deputy Director, testifying House Judiciary Committee, there were two intents. One was to help then Vice President Biden in the debate and to assist him in winning the election.
Okay.
It was to help Vice President Biden. That was the intent of the letter.
Yeah, because they thought it was Russian disinformation at the time. Okay.
How is that not election interference?
So anytime any group of individuals comes out and expresses that opinion about something, it's election interference. See, the issue is you're viewing Ronna McDaniel's actions about putting forth false electors, putting forth a false narrative, and fomenting a plan. There was a plan that existed to not certify the election and keep Donald Trump in charge despite the results. That is different than the CIA people signing a letter. That is different than Hillary Clinton calling Donald Trump an illegitimate president. Ronna McDaniel took actions and was involved in a plan.
And the letter is not an action?
No, that I said and involved in a plan. It's two. Those are two nouns there. What were they involved in a plan? Do you have any large coordinated plan for all of these intelligence agencies to sit there and say, oh, yes, we're going to do this in order to make sure that Joe Biden's elected? Anything showing that at all? Because we have a plan that went on for months from Ronna McDaniel in order to make sure that Donald Trump stayed in power illegitimately. That's what we have. That's my issue on this.
No, my
I'm not
issue
arguing
on
whether
this
or not the
is
CIA
that,
agents got it wrong.
The Democrats,
okay?
like you seem to think that the Democrats, because we haven't dived into all their communications and gotten the warrants to be able to go after and pull out all, and until you see an email that says interrupt this election with intelligence officers falsely claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, I don't believe it rises to the level of election interference. It's amazing to me that you have to have like literally like a memo written to believe that's the case.
This is the reason. This is the reason I am not sitting here and arguing, because you're sitting here and saying election interference. That's never been my point with Ronna McDaniel. My point is trying to overturn a legitimate election. You keep coming back to election interference.
That's what NBC said. That's what NBC's reporter said.
Hold on. No. That's not really what they said. That she repeatedly lied to them over and over again and pushed a false narrative about the stolen election. That's different because she was involved in a plan. That's not just election interference. We can discuss. If you want to just talk about election interference, we can. That's fine. But to me, that's not the issue with Ronna. Ronna's issue is she was involved in an actual plan to overturn an election and put a guy who didn't win in power.
And
I don't see anything in that.
I'm reading to you that now Secretary of State Antony Blinken played a role in the inception of the public statements signed by current and past intelligence officers that claim that Hunter Biden's laptop was part of Russian disinformation. Former CIA Deputy Director Michael Morell testified that the goal was to help Joe Biden.
Yes.
And you're like, but she came up with a plan.
Hang on.
I'm going, there's a plan right here.
Yes. Anywhere in that plan does it say we need to organize together to lie about it? Anywhere in that testimony? Does he say that this was an organization predicated on the fact that we were going to lie about the information and bring it forward? Because that's what Ronna did. That's different. Yes, you can have someone involved in either political campaign putting forward a message that wants to get either side elected. I'm not saying that what the intelligence community based on that letter is right, but I'm saying it's not the same as what Ronna did. Them signing one letter is not the same as being part of a plan. She was on phone calls to secretaries of states asking them to recount and recertify. That's different than what that letter is. That's all I'm saying, that it's not the same thing. If you want to talk election interference, we can talk election interference. What Ronna did is different. Ronna did a plan to overturn a legitimate election and put a guy that didn't win into the White House. That's different than that letter.
And these guys engaged in a plan to deceive the American people.
Where in the testimony does it say that? Show me. You're saying the testimony shows that it was a plan. Where is the deception in the plan?
You're telling me that the former director of the CIA is so incompetent, I don't know, maybe that is it saying that, to believe that this was just an innocent letter. Of course, we had all this information that this was Russian disinformation. It wasn't.
Do you want me to play Parnas? I can play it. And he'll walk you through the fact that it was that Rudy was dirty and getting stuff from Russian intelligence. Go to that.
It's amazing. No, I think you're just changing the subject. All right, let's go to, we'll get to Ralph in a second, but let's check in on Blake on the news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, guys. The search for 6 missing bridge workers suspended last night, but they're back at it this morning in Baltimore after the bridge collapse, of course. And I'm going to let you know what The View thinks about men. I'm sure you'll be shocked about that one.
They love them, right?
Yes, they do.
That's why there's men on that show.
So much. Thank God for The View. Great comedy. That's coming up at the top of the hour. We'll talk to you then.
Great. Thank you, Blake. All right. Let's get to Ralph real quick. Ralph, you're from Colorado Springs. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
Yep. Real quickie. What the legal concept that Bill is putting out is called conspiracy. Now, you can do something, or a bunch of you can do something, but if it's only by itself, that's just an act. But if you do that act in conjunction with a plan, that is a conspiracy under the law. And I think that's where the news people really are upset with her, that trying to overthrow the election with what she was doing was acting in concert with others in a conspiracy. End of comment.
Okay. And you don't, from your perspective, you don't think that Democrats, social media, all that stuff in 2020 was conspired at all to help Joe Biden win?
Look, everyone who in the DNC and the RNC is conspiring to get their persons, plural, elected. The question is not whether they're in a conspiracy to do something that's legal. Rather, it is a question whether they're in a conspiracy to do something overturning the election that is illegal.
So when was Ronna McDaniel tried on this? I'm trying to figure out when she was tried for doing something illegal.
Jeff, how many times have you exceeded the speed limit on I-25?
Well, answer my question. When was Ronna McDaniel tried for doing something illegal?
I just answered your question. She wasn't tried, but that doesn't mean she isn't guilty.
Oh my gosh. I can't, like, the lengths that y'all are willing to go to claim that everything that a Republican does is guilty. They've conspired. They tried to overturn.
Right there. Hold it right there. I am not a Democrat. Don't tell me what I'm thinking. Listen to what I say and don't paint me as something that I am not.
Do we lose Ralph?
Yep, you lost him. I get that too, though. I've got someone right here that is convinced I'm a Democrat. Never been registered a Democrat. And regardless of what I say, like, nope, you're a Democrat. Okay, because you get to label me.
No.
Fine. Go ahead.
Where I'm
whatever.
struggling right now is, in his case, he was very quick to say that Ronna McDaniel was guilty. Very quick to say Ronna McDaniel was guilty. And therefore, NBC is totally justified in keeping her off. While these guys, there's, the 51 intelligence officers that engaged in election interference with the Hunter Biden laptop story are totally innocent, and we're believing in complete viable data about Russian interference, and this wasn't a conspiracy at all, even though I'm looking at a House Judiciary testimony that said this was all started by Secretary of State Antony Blinken. I just don't get the double standard. That's what I'm frustrated with.
What double standard?
The one we just heard from Ralph, that this is somehow that Ronna McDaniel is guilty, absolutely guilty. Okay, where's the trial? There was no trial. She's totally guilty. Meanwhile, 51 intelligence officers who engaged in election interference were totally innocent and operating off of completely reasonable data, even though there's evidence that they engaged in a conspiracy.
The thing is that we know there was evidence that Ronna had access to that showed there was no election fraud, nothing widespread that could have changed the election. She had access to that, and yet she still went forward with an alternative narrative. You need to show me if they are exactly equivalent. You need to show me that the intelligence officers knew this information was absolutely incorrect and then came forward and still presented it as true in order to do the same thing that Ronna did. That's the issue. Ronna had access to the information showing that this wasn't correct, and she continued the narrative. I don't see that with the CIA and the other intelligence officers.
Defense been?
I was doing it for the RNC. I was taking one for the team.
You don't have it.
Well, that's what she said.
I'm looking at it right now.
They asked her on MSNBC, and her thing was that she was taking one for the team when she did that. That was the conversation at that point. So that's what I'm saying is her defense at this point. So if there's something else out there,
there's no listed
please.
Key defense yet to this. All right. So if you're looking at the federal election interference case being run and argued by Jack Smith, you have the report of the House Select Committee. You have the indictment. You do not have President Trump's defense yet.
Okay. He might have one. He might not. Because, we just found in Carrie Lake, she said to the, she asked for a summary judgment, or it's not what it's called, in Arizona in the defamation case from the Aurora, Arizona election official.
It's amazing to me how we end up, this conversation, Bill, started in, is it fair for Ronna McDaniel to be let go from NBC? And does NBC totally have a bias, right? And we're now into the weeds on these ancillary secondary issues.
Yeah, I know. Because people keep talking about election, fraud and thinking that what she did was okay. It wasn't. It was subverting a legitimate election and trying to put somebody else in power. That is different than the other examples that we have. And I understand it. I agree with you that NBC and MSNBC have a bias. But in this case, I understand why the journalists push back. This is a person that engaged in lying to their face and had a plan to put a person in the White House that didn't win the election. That's different. If you can show me those intelligence officers were part of a coordinated plan, they made this decision despite what they knew, and they came out there and lied, okay, then it's the same thing. Until then, not the same thing.
Do you think it would be warranted for House Judiciary to get access to all their emails?
All whose emails?
The 51 intelligence officers to review this.
If they have,
if election integrity is this important, then we should investigate, shouldn't we?
Well, you're the one that is screaming that we don't have election integrity. I've never mmade the issue that we don't have election integrity. That's an argument made by someone that disagrees with me. I've never said we don't have the election integrity. But if you can show me that Mayorkas or whoever or Blinken was involved in a coordinated effort, that there was a plan to push information that was knowingly false, then I think we can investigate. But you have to show me knowingly false. Can you show me that at that time, Blinken,
Alvin Bragg from going after all of Donald Trump's stuff?
What Donald Trump did is knowingly false. Prima facie, it's knowingly false. Yes. They claimed a business expense that wasn't a business expense.
They wouldn't have never known that unless they have dived into all of his stuff. Alvin Bragg, upon being elected, the DA said, I am going to go after all things Donald Trump, personal and business.
The only reason they were able to do this is based on Michael Cohen's testimony. That's the reason they have the Stormy Daniel hush money case. It's Michael Cohen. It's nothing. It's not Alvin Bragg saying.
It's totally him.
No.
He said he's going to go after everything Trump related.
Yes.
So let's go after these 51. Why not?
The reason they went after that line is after they had the information from Michael Cohen. If you have information from Blinken or anybody else involved that it was a coordinated effort to push a false narrative, go ahead and investigate. But that's the premise. Michael Cohen delivered to the prosecutor. Listen, Donald Trump tried to claim this as a business expense, and this is how it worked out, and that's illegal. There we go. We have the same thing. Let's do it.
We'll get your calls and texts next, Ron. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. The 6 people missing after the Baltimore bridge collapse are presumed.
All right, when we come back, Isabel Brown's going to join us. She's got a new book out titled The End of the Alphabet. Are Gen Zers becoming more conservative? She thinks so. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Good morning. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Stefan, along with Bill Thorpe, diving into the hottest takes from the right, left, and center. During the first hour, we discussed Ronna McDaniel and whether or not it was fair for NBC News to keep her off. Bill making the argument that, it was fair. She lied about the election, tried to engage in election interference, tried to overturn an election, and therefore should be kept off. And my point being, well, if that's the case, then there are a lot of Democrats that should be kept off this show as well. And NBC doesn't seem interested in doing that. So the real underlying reason they kept Ronna McDaniel off NBC is because she wasn't willing to attack Trump enough. That's my thesis. So lots of text messages, a lot of engagement, which we appreciate. Coming up in just a second, it's going to be Isabel Brown. She's the author of The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. Do you think that's the case? Do you think Gen Z could be more conservative than us millennials? I'm a millennial. Or the Gen Xers. Bill, are you a Gen X?
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting discussion. Isabel Brown, winner of the Under 30 speech contest at the Western Conservative Summit one year, contributor with Turning Point USA, PragerU. You've seen her. She's got a big social media following. So she'll provide important insight into the next generation, especially as it relates to the future of this country. So you're not going to want to miss that. The last hour was a debacle, Joan says. She wants it to be more light and fun to listen to, and we got into it too much.
Yeah, we did get into it. It was fun, though. It was fun, and I did talk to people on through text messages and off air, and again, people mad. Why are we doing this? Why this topic? And that question, the fulcrum of the conversation that we were having, is one that is going to be fundamental going forward, because we still have, even now, Donald Trump is talking about how the 2024 election is going to be fraudulent and stolen. And so if that is still a narrative, then the conversation needs to be had. It's something that you need to be able to be open and discuss. And I'm surprised on both sides through text messages, people that believe it was stolen and it wasn't, how quickly they either dismiss Jeff or myself based on personal attacks. It's never about here's the information I have that shows you're incorrect. It's always, meh, you're ugly and your mom dresses you funny. And it's directed to both Jeff and myself. The odd thing is when we get those text messages and there's a few for him and a few for me, we're probably exactly where we should be. You may disagree, listener, that we're not feeding you the information that you want to hear. We're not telling you that everything is absolutely hunky-dory in your world, or this is why you're right about these things. But when both groups are a little bit mad at each of us, we're probably doing something right.
It definitely makes us the most unique talk show in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to find us anywhere else.
Nobody else is going to do that today. Not a single person will do what we did in the 6 o'clock hour. Not a single show has that testicular fortitude to do that.
And we'll engage in your calls and texts. So give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. The argument is both sad and funny. Bill brings facts.
And then they make fun of you.
Supposition based on facts, and Jeff can only respond with "what about" and emotion.
Yeah. See, and again, that's what you get. It's not. And again, come into the conversation. I understand the reaction that way, but talk to us more about the information you have. What do you feel makes it right, correct, incorrect? Because the number of people. You got one guy there that's hey, Bill, you're a Democrat, so I don't have to listen to you. I'm not. Never been a registered Democrat, but he's okay doing that, because as soon as he calls me that, he can then invalidate anything I say. He doesn't have to deal with it. So, yeah.
We did get somebody's mind off of work.
I apologize.
I miss my ex, and
so we were fighting like you and the ex. That's what I get it from that one. I like that. Like, oh wow, I had these fights. Yeah. Oh, that brings me back to those times. Yes.
Does Fox offer anyone from the other side? Yeah, I think they do. Juan Williams is on Fox.
Yeah, oddly enough, they do have a former DNC chair, Donna Brazile.
Is she still on Fox?
That's a good question. She may or may not be. I haven't seen her recently, and that's weird. And again, Ronna can go out and get a job with Fox or OAN or Newsmax or CBS, or anybody else can hire her. So we'll see what happens.
I think for conservatives, you'll just see them continue to care less and less about NBC after this. It's not like we watch it anyways. I don't watch Meet the Press anymore since Tim was it Tim Russer?
Yeah,
it hasn't been the same.
No, not at all. Not even close.
And those days are kind of gone. And I've been on a show with Chuck Todd. I was on his
Yeah.
podcast one time, and he treated me fair. I have nothing to complain about, but it's just not compelling. And my sentiment is that network, MSNBC, NBC, Meet the Press, all those are so driven with anti-Trump bias that look, we're going into election year. That's where they're going to be. Fox, OAN, Newsmax will be on the other side. And, I think this is, at the end of the day, a loss both for NBC and for our ability to talk and communicate.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with you 110%. So let's have this Kublai moment after all the disagreement last time. I agree with you 110% on that I believe that both sides of the media ecosphere, I guess, is the best way to put it, have decided to tell their viewers or listeners what those people want to hear rather than what they should hear. And I think you're absolutely right that in the liberal sphere, not Trump, negative Trump sucks sells. And so they lean into that because of that, because what they're doing is they're watching the ratings and they're seeing when they do oh, look, we're making fun of the orange man. Oh, orange man bad. And all of a sudden the ratings go up. It's like, ooh, more of that. And I think that's where they're getting into this bias, not understanding that's not your role. If you're claiming to be a news organization, that's not your role to tell the audience what they want to hear. That's not it. And I think we get it on the conservative side as well. They spend time telling the audience what they want to hear. Fortunately, we don't do that too much to other people's chagrin. Other people on both sides,
and I think
which is good.
I think that's a fair critique of where social media is going to be.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get to Isabel Brown here in a second.
You're totally right.
Where the heck is the evidence that this bridge disaster was a conspiracy?
I know. You see how quickly that went?
Holy cow.
So many people.
And I'm kind of sitting there going, really? We're going to run with this?
Yeah.
We're going to push that out. We're going to do little YouTube things on it. And there's...
Yeah, and the idea that it was a cyber attack. and the part that I look at is this, and every time I hear people come up with these type of conspiracy theories, I sit down and go, do you think during the meetings when they were designing the operational parameters of the ship, do you think they said, maybe we shouldn't let somebody hack into it using Wi-Fi?
Shut down the...
Exactly. I mean, I would have thought that the engineers in some of their meetings that would have come up on the whiteboard. That's the idea, that someone out there on YouTube says, I have an idea. They've obviously never thought of this. I'm like, you didn't think that was part of the planning? Because I'm not certain I would install the computer system into my giant cargo ship if they're like, well, you know what we can do? Anybody out there that has Wi-Fi signal can make sure to take control of your ship. Excuse me. Hang on.
And why that wouldn't happen more often. Like
exactly.
That particular...
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. Why are there people out there playing like real life Battleship and going, hey, we're going to, seriously. Oh, well.
Let's get into, like, you could have a much bigger impact in the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal.
Yeah. You can Strait of Gibraltar stuff. You can shut things down so much. Yeah. Suez and Panama are excellent examples. You could really mess stuff up there.
Baltimore Harbor.
I know. That was the thing. So we can't get cars. Okay.
At 1:30 in the morning. Not even during rush hour.
That was the thing. Yeah. And the clever people that were doing this obviously can't tell time. They can't do the time change from wherever they are. They can't count forward or backwards based on the difference in the time change. They're super clever in hacking into the system. But time, somehow, that's outside the purview. They can't figure out what time it is.
Let's go to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. 30 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the lower 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, thankfully, 2 roadside workers are alive after a crash on I-70 in Wheat Ridge on Tuesday. They suffered serious injuries. Once again, slow down and drive safely, especially in construction zones this morning and every morning. The search for 6 missing Baltimore bridge workers was suspended Tuesday night because of diminished visibility and treacherous currents. Divers returned to Baltimore Harbor this morning to look for people presumed dead after the cargo ship hit the bridge. The Supreme Court is considering a case that would limit access to the abortion pill mifepristone. Justices began reviewing an appeals court decision blocking recent FDA changes that made the medication more widely available. Hunter Biden's lawyers will be in federal court in LA today, arguing for the dismissal of tax-related charges filed against the president's son. Biden pleaded not guilty to 9 charges. Israeli leaders say the Biden administration is not helping potential peace, as Hamas knows they can hold on to hostages during a ceasefire. And Minister of Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer says Israel has to go into Rafah.
Essentially, we have dismantled the terrorist army of Hamas. We've got 5 battalions left. 4 of them are in Rafah. They have somewhere maybe 7,000, 8,000 terrorists there. We cannot afford to not go into Rafah and finish the job, because then what they'll do is October 7th again and again and again.
Police are still searching for suspects in that deadly shooting at a house party in Commerce City. The shooting happened just before 2 o'clock on Sunday morning and left 18-year-old Shiloh Bennett dead. 2 other people are wounded. Commerce City police still working to identify the suspects. Anyone with information on the shooting should call their tip line. Hey, The View's Anna Navarro, whoever that is, she loves men.
So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no. And only one said she thought women needed a man in their lives, only one. But when men were asked a similar question, do we need women, most of them said yes. So why do you think that is?
Because men are useless. I mean,
No way. Really?
I want to differentiate between straight men and gay men, because I think I would die without gay men.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Time out.
Good luck.
To me, it sounds like, well, you know what? Yeah. I mean, to me, when I listen to that, to me, it sounds like men are kinder, more appreciative. And then without a man, you know, Jeff and Bill, we could not have, you know, created beautiful women and intelligent women like Anna Navarro.
Well, it's that
Man, I
stuff.
love
Think
that
about
show.
the male-dominated trades, right? Garbage men. Let's just go with
exactly.
those
Who's
guys.
gonna-
All right, that's predominantly
Absolutely,
dominated by
the dirty
men.
work.
And you're just enjoy taking out your own trash to the dump, Navarro.
Sure. But gay men are great for her. She loves gay men.
To Carvel's point,
all women love gay.
do you see James
What
Carvel's
was
point?
Carvel's point?
Oh, this is a
No, I
Democrat
didn't see that one. I
strategist.
didn't hear that.
Democrats are shedding male support due to
Right.
preachy females.
Oh, I agree with that.
That's funny.
Your
There's
facial
no
expression was
question.
hilarious.
Yeah, you know the fun thing in that with Anna Navarro, she's a registered Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a Republican.
Well, good for her. That doesn't mean anything.
right.
She's
I
not a
know.
conservative.
That's the
She's
case
not
where I
very
will go.
smart.
That is
She
a
loves
rhino.
gay men because
That is a
gay
rhino.
Right, exactly. If there are nothing but gay men, there wouldn't be any human beings out there, right? Goodness.
Thanks, boy.
I'm serious. I'm making a flag that says heteros or heterosexuals. I'm tired of this. 26 in Lafayette, 27 in Parker, 30 in Denver. Who is Anna Navarro? I don't care. I think she lives in South Florida. Nuggets go for 5 straight tonight in Lodo. The Suns in town. Avs lose to the Canadians 2-1. 9-game win streak comes to an end. And opening day for the Rockies tomorrow night at the Diamondbacks. All right, I'll give it back to you guys. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a bit more of a spring-like pattern for Denver in the Front Range. Still a touch cool, but a little warmer, near 50 today. Partly cloudy, upper 20s tonight. Warming to the lower 60s Thursday, then temperatures on Friday about 60. Friday afternoon and evening and Friday night will bring a chance of showers. Still mild, making the 60s Saturday and Sunday, but areas of rain and snow Sunday night into Monday, and Sunday night and the Monday and Tuesday will be much cooler. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
Joining us on the Jeff and Bill show is Isabel Brown. Isabel's an author. She's active on social media. She's a truth seeker, streamer, and probably most importantly, a corgi enthusiast. She's written a new book, The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. Isabel, I thought the next generation was just full of a bunch of libs that were going to destroy this country. What say you?
That's what I'm hearing, Jeff. And thank you both so much for having me on the program. I'm so excited to be reconnecting with you and back home in our beautiful state of Colorado. You know, I wrote my book stemming from frustration of that very sentiment, Jeff, being a bit of a token voice for Generation Z in politics and culture, and knowing that everyone older than myself, even those on the same team, so to speak, politically and culturally, were pointing the finger at our generation as being the boogeyman for the downfall of America. And anecdotally, in my own life and doing work with millions of high school and college students across the country, that just wasn't what I was seeing. Rather, I'm seeing overwhelming evidence that Generation Z is actually the most conservative generation America has seen since World War II.
Really? What makes them more conservative than millennials and Gen X?
When you hear that word conservative, I think a lot of people fall out of their chair. I've been doing media related to my book for the last week or so, and whether it be in studio at Fox News or Newsmax or radio across the country, there's a lot of pushback when I share that sentiment. But I think it's important we zoom way out, even beyond politics, and think about the late, great Andrew Breitbart's famous quote that politics is always downstream from culture. If you want to change what's happening in the Oval Office or the bills that they're debating on Capitol Hill, you have to first start with changing how people live their day-to-day lives. Culturally, Gen Z is embracing timeless, traditional, conservative with a lowercase c values that have always made Western civilization great. What do I mean by that? 93% of our generation still says we want to get married. In a time that we have the lowest marriage rate in American history, we're realizing that we don't need to spend $250,000 on a degree in, I don't know, underwater African LGBTQ basket weaving in order to be successful after we graduate. And instead, 62% of us are starting our own businesses or are in the process of doing that currently. Even on seemingly smaller issues that you wouldn't immediately think change culture and politics at large, the pendulum is swinging substantially back towards tradition in America. We're quitting our hormonal birth control. We're deleting our dating apps. We're eating real food instead of crap grown in a laboratory or synthetic chemicals from a factory. And we're really reclaiming something bigger than our empty secular world, seeking purpose and meaning and redefining the American dream for ourselves.
We're talking with Isabel Brown, the author of The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. What do you attribute to that change to?
It's not rocket science at the end of the day. If you start looking at American history and just global history at large, every young generation wants to do one thing, and that is rebel against the people who came before them. If you're a parent of teenagers listening to this, you 100% have experienced this within your own home, but it also applies to the 30,000-foot societal level. I think when we think about punk rock and countercultural in American history, images are invoked of covering your body in tattoos or spiky hair or joining a punk rock band to stick it to the man. But it just so happens today that being radically countercultural or even punk rock is to embrace conservative ideas. And when you saw millennials at large, no offense, Jeff, I know you are a millennial, really take our country overwhelmingly to a socialistic direction and the collectivism direction and really overwhelmingly leftist, the most natural thing in the world is for this next generation to reject those very ideas and embrace timeless conservative values instead.
I'm interested on that point because I saw, particularly among my generation, and I kind of attribute this to the public schools, a willingness to embrace Marxist thinking. What do I say by that? Marxist is based in power structure dynamics, and so it believes that that there's oppressors and oppressed, and when you kind of put people into those categories, then you green light the moral activities or you greenlight the activities of the oppressed as being moral because they're fighting back against the oppression. That's why we allow riots in some capacities, or at least permit them to take place, because they're fighting back against oppression. Is that type of Marxist thinking still prevalent in the next generation?
I think it's going to take several decades for America to shed that type of thinking. And it is so deeply rooted with the left's, frankly, hostile takeover of every single pillar of American culture, the media, the entertainment industry, the education system in America, politics, even the church has overwhelmingly embraced substantial Marxist ideas in postmodern American culture. But where I'm really, really encouraged by this generation is moving away from this collectivism-oriented way of thinking that is centered around Marxism, and instead embracing rugged individualism of critical thinking again. When you look at the younger cohort of Gen Z, I mean, when we're talking about this generation, it's 70 million highly unique individuals ranging from age 26, 27, which is how old I am, all the way down to about 12 or 13. And that younger cohort that's still preteens and teenagers, when we're surveying them about their political philosophy and political ideology, young men, for example, are overwhelmingly, over 70% wildly conservative, the most they have been in 50 years. Sorry to Anna Navarro. I know you guys were just talking about that, and she might not be happy about that reality, but the resurgence of strong manhood and masculinity from important people like Jordan Peterson and Brandon Tatum and Charlie Kirk has created this renaissance of individualism and critical thinking again. And across both genders, 52% of newly registered voters in the United States are registering as independent with a capital I. That might freak a lot of people out from the Republican Party or the conservative movement of old, but I'm highly encouraged by this reality because it tells me that even teenagers today are waking up and saying, I'm not just a prize to be won over. I won't blindly follow whatever candidate Taylor Swift tells me to vote for or what my professor is trying to bully me into believe in my classroom. I have the opportunity to know everything intimately myself, and I have to go seek those answers to live out my values in real time.
Talking with Isabel Brown, author of The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. Charlie Kirk, whose show is on right after ours, talked about a sea change that he's seen out there on college campuses. You were at CSU last night. Talk to us about your experience on college campuses. And do you think that's going to change the outcome of this election in any way?
I sure do. And I'm highly encouraged by what's happening. You know, I often get railed for being a bit too optimistic, but I'm no stranger for the insanity of what happens in the hearts of college campuses. As a CSU grad myself and an activist during my time there on campus from 2015 to 2019, I faced all of it, as you're very familiar with, Jeff, and I'm sure many of your listeners are as well. Antifa attacking me, death threats, threats of violence, my address getting doxxed online. I became very good friends with the CSU Police Department. We'll just put it that way, because I had the audacity to invite speakers like Candace Owens and Dennis Prager to talk about free speech on a federally funded public college campus. And it was so bad at one particular event that we hosted in 2018 that the National Guard for the state of Colorado was deployed. And we had snipers on top of the computer science building just in case things got out of hand. But last night, I returned to campus as an alum for what happened to be the very first conservative speech on campus since COVID. They are just now finally letting speakers come back onto campus.
Really? CSU is just now opening up after COVID? I think it was 4 years ago.
To hear from the students from 4 years.
Oh,
but it was so encouraging because 50 students from across the entire spectrum of majors and degree programs there at CSU turned out. Not a single protester was in attendance. There was a lot of wonderful dialogue and conversation. I know they're also hosting Riley Gaines there in Fort Collins next week, which they're very excited about. But the hullabaloo of Antifa and the insanity of the radical left is dying down all over the country. I'm speaking at the University of Washington in Seattle tonight, and I don't anticipate any major protests. I'll be at Auburn University on Thursday, and there's a very big crowd of students excited to engage with ideas. This generational shift that we're seeing gives me a lot of hope and encouragement. It might not be quite as viral on social media when everything's fine and there's not pandemonium on campus, but it tells me that there's opportunity for dialogue like never before with young voters.
Yeah, Charlie's even noticed that there's kind of less protesters coming out than there used to be. I hope that's all working out. We're talking with Isabel Brown. She's the author of The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. Yoram Hazony, in his book, Conservatism, A Rediscovery, talks about the importance of living a conservative life. And that's what this sounds like is changing. He goes, it's great to engage in debate. It's great to go out there and write in your student newspaper and to argue. But the most valuable thing you can do for your life, for the future, is to live a conservative life, because he kind of points to Israel. Israel's gotten more conservative over the years because Orthodox Jews have 6 kids, and then their kids have 6 kids, and then their kids have 6 kids. And that changes culture in itself. So the importance of the family structure. I was kind of struck by something you said, that young people are kind of rejecting birth control. We just had a big Supreme Court case on that argued yesterday. What are you seeing on that?
It is shocking, Jeff. And as a biomedical scientist by training myself, I'm quite encouraged to see young women from across the political spectrum take ownership of their health again and reject this idea that big pharma has to control our lives every day. We are quitting so frequently, in fact, that just 2 days ago, the Washington Post had an absolute aneurysm meltdown about the number of Gen Z women quitting hormonal birth control over what they call right-wing influencer propaganda and misinformation on the internet from people like me, authentically sharing our stories of how hormonal birth control prescribed for things like acne in our high school years totally transformed our identity and destroyed our health. Maybe more than any other subject for young women, I see a common ground opportunity for unity with Gen Z women over this issue, as I see thousands of comments on my posts or other people's posts from leftist women saying that they've had strokes or developed cancer or endometriosis. They tried to end their own life or struggled with crippling depression over the last several years of taking these pills that are marketed to us as a one-size-fits-all solution to all of the ailments of being a woman, but really is just being revealed as kind of slow-release poison for the women of our generation that's become so normal to be prescribed. Interestingly, I think the Washington Post freaked out because it just so happens Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. And a few days ago, Amazon got clearance from the FDA to offer the first ever non-prescription hormonal birth control pills that anyone of any age can order on Amazon with zero age verification. So if that doesn't tell you what the motives of people pulling those strings of power are, I don't know what else could.
Now, Isabel, you've talked about how the generation is becoming more conservative. Is there any indication that they are then also going to register as Republicans and vote Republican?
It's a great question. And I think right now we're actually seeing an overwhelming push to register as independents, which some people see as a very negative sign. But if you couple that with data from the last several elections and looking at exit polls from 2018 to 2020 to 2022, it is a straight diagonal line for young voters embracing more Republican and conservative policies, candidates, ballot initiatives, and more. Even last time that we all voted in the 2022 election, nationally speaking, everyone blamed Generation Z for this blue tidal wave nobody saw coming. But in reality, it was much closer to 50-50 than you could possibly imagine. Most polls are suggesting going into the November election that Generation Z voters are overwhelmingly preferring a Donald Trump candidacy to Joe Biden. We hate Joe Biden, and it's not a secret as to why. He's really made it impossible to live out your own American dream as a young person today. And he's too old to possibly even know his own name, let alone how to understand the America we're growing up in today. But it's encouraging to see that political pendulum swing back towards the right for young people. And I anticipate that's only going to go further with the even more conservative younger cohort of our generation still in their teenage years.
Yeah, see, Isabel, I look at it and I'm not on board with you thinking that it's going to swing even further. I'm unconvinced that these more conservative younger generation is going to end up registering as Republicans. They may vote for some Republicans at times and understand the idea of lining up with them a policy, but from what I see, both from the conversation we're having here, my own kids and other interactions, that generation is the most open, understanding, and accepting of anybody I've ever run into. And right now, the GOP has a real issue with LGBTQ and that population. The issue that I see that is a huge roadblock for getting these conservative kids to register as Republican is that the GOP, by and large, holds their LGBTQ friends, family members, and colleagues in contempt, views them as predators, views them as groomers, views them as people that are trying to take advantage of children. And that is not the experience of that generation with their LGBTQ friends and family members. So is that going to be an overcoming? Is it going to be a hurdle?
I think there's a lot of hurdles to what all of this looks like. And really the premise of my book is that none of this is just going to happen naturally, right? If we want to take back Western civilization and the United States from the brink of collapse as idealized by the American left, it requires active participation from every single one of us, from Generation Z all the way up through those older than us as well, so that we can create opportunities for those who come after us. It's an interesting perspective in terms of registering Republican. You know, I would argue that registering through the Republican Party is far less important than who you end up voting for. In your last segment, you guys were reacting to a clip from The View with Ana Navarro, who happens to be a quote unquote registered Republican and yet is not at all remotely conservative in any of her values or viewpoints, and yet votes for probably overwhelmingly Democratic candidates. Again, I don't know her personally, but it's a pretty fair speculation to make. So this independent movement of registering outside of the two-party political system isn't a death sentence for the Republican Party. Rather, I see it more as the free market at work, forcing the Republican Party to realize it's not a given that people are going to just grow up and all of a sudden become more conservative. There needs to be a much more targeted and important outreach to young people where they are in a language that they understand, that the left has been dominating for far too long, but even they are failing, knowing Gen Z is running away from the left and towards more conservative principles.
Wow. Okay. You get to do the touchdown dance. You got to spike the football and do the touchdown dance. That was fantastic. There isn't a single thing that you enumerated there that I can disagree with. I think you've got this 110% nailed down, that it is the free market at work, and both parties are going to have to stop making broad assumptions about who's going to join, and they're going to have to start making their case. And I think that's great. I think that's great for conservatives and conservative movements across the country. Thank you. That was really good. Wow.
Talking with Isabel Brown. She's the author of the book, The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. You can follow Isabel at twitter.com/the Isabel B. The Isabel B is where you can follow her on Twitter. Isabel, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you both so much for having me, and stay warm out there in this late winter we're having in Colorado.
She's a Colorado native, but now I think she lives in Florida. And so, she still comes back, which we appreciate. I did a documentary with Isabel for the Western Conservative Summit. Took her, Benny Johnson, and CJ Pearson skiing at Copper Mountain. We had a great time. And then we talked all about these types of issues, the next generation, and whether or not they're as conservative or as liberal as the media makes them out to be. So I appreciate Isabel being on the program.
That's so cool.
When it comes to creating the perfect kitchen or bathroom countertop, it's all about understanding the client's needs and personal style. That's why communication is key. Mitch Floria is the master craftsman with the Art of Granite and works with his team of highly skilled craftsmen, each with their own unique experience and expertise to help bring your vision to life. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team at the Art of Granite will listen to you and get you what you need. Mitch provides granite, marble, quartz, and other materials from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices with no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. Mention KNUS and receive a bathroom countertop free with the purchase of your fantastic new kitchen countertops, or get a kitchen or bathroom sink free with the purchase of any countertop package. Schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919. That's 303-386-5919. Or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's theartofgranite.com. We'll get to your calls and texts, and there are a lot of them. When we come back, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. The 6 people missing after the Baltimore bridge collapse are presumed dead, and the search and rescue operation has ended, while officials look for bodies. Those unaccounted for are thought to be construction workers who had been carrying out works on the bridge when the Dali container ship struck it in the early hours of Tuesday. Maryland's Governor Wes Moore has confirmed that the crew had raised the alarm about a power issue before the vessel crashed into the bridge. An investigation into the exact cause is underway. U.S. Supreme Court justices appeared skeptical of arguments to limit access to a widely used abortion pill in a closely watched case. It's the first major abortion case to reach the court since justices overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. Ira Spitzer reports.
The same group of 9 justices already removed constitutional protection for abortions in 2022, but in this session, most of them seem to take issue with 2 key points of this attempt to limit access to the abortion pill mifepristone. They question whether the group of anti-abortion advocates who filed the lawsuit actually had the standing to do so, and they questioned the precedent of overruling the Food and Drug Administration's decision that the drug is safe.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We just wrapped an interview with Isabel Brown. She's the author of The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America. Really, she argues that they're a lot more conservative, even though they're not registering as Republicans, they're registering as independents. They want the Republican Party or Democrat Party to work and earn their vote. They're tending to kind of shrug off the more liberal social lives of Gen X and millennials.
It's really weird that after the conversation, she was wonderful. I feel like I'm in Gen Z.
Yeah.
Okay, tongue in cheek. But the idea is that she talked about why they had left either political party, why they don't like the party identity and things, and they're looking for both parties to make the case for them. That's where I am, and I've been there for decades. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm not taking credit for anything. I just feel oh so young today. I feel she made me feel like I can feel in touch with the kids. That I'm not as much of an old fart as I thought I was. So
again, her
cool.
book, The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America, dives into some interesting things. And Charlie Kirk, whose show is on right after ours, finds similar things when he's on college campuses, that this is a different generation. They've kind of looked at the way we as millennials and Gen Xers lived our lives and are choosing some different pathways. One of the things we didn't get into, though, is how that generation, unable to purchase a home and having to live with such high cost of living, not being able to find the money to be able to strike out on their own, that type of thing, how that's going to affect Joe Biden. I think it will be an electoral impact for him. What that looks like, I don't know. But I think I don't think it's skewing in his direction as a result. I don't think things are better for him. But
I think that both parties are not really reaching out and having messages that resonate with them. Yeah. And I just don't think they understand what that really means. And part of it because the people that are, in charge, the people of my generation and older, the boomers, they didn't experience that. They don't understand what you mean by having to work a 40-hour work week, maybe even a 50 or 60-hour work week,
just to make it,
and not be able to buy a house. And that, it seems like an exercise in futility. Is the deal inside of capitalism when we were growing up, as we were taught about it, was that with effort, hard work, and some luck at times, you can make amazing things happen inside America. But if you just lean on your hard work, your ethic, and do your job, you can get a life for yourself. And they don't see that being available to them. They could work for 20, 30 years, and they'll never be able to buy a home. We saw there was a poll recently that I think in the vast majority of our states, maybe even all 50, but at least well over 40 of our states, that rent is more affordable than buying a house. And that's hard because, as you know, as a homeowner, there are some economic advantages to getting into that home ownership. One of them, the immediate one, is being able to write off the interest in your taxes. That is enormous for a first-time home buyer. And then later on, the other one on the tail end of it is it turns into a saleable asset and that you can borrow against that. There are things about home ownership that really allow you to achieve the American dream. So I understand they're just flat out frustration. They feel like they're being shut out of it because the ways that the boomers and my generation, your generation, all achieved the American dream in part was home ownership. And that's out of reach for them anymore.
I think that's a fair critique that neither party's really outreaching to this generation.
Yeah, they don't care. Yeah, they don't know. They don't care.
It's fascinating to watch where the demographics are breaking. In 2012, for the Romney campaign, suburban women were a key voting bloc for us.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Right? Douglas County, Jefferson County, Arapahoe County, married women, and the biggest indicator,
family, conservative values,
right? The biggest indicator that a woman becomes a conservative is that she gets married.
Yeah.
Statistically, that has totally changed. They're mostly anti-Trump right now. Not all of them. My wife is a huge Trump fan. And she's a college educated, law school educated, married woman. But a majority, this is why you've had a 20-point swing in Douglas County from Mitt Romney to Heidi Ganahl barely winning Douglas County. Mitt Romney won by 20. Won by 20 in Douglas County. Heidi Ganahl wins by less than 1 percentage point, and it's primarily because of that demographic shift. And then the other big one that James Carville's tapping into, and I've seen other statisticians talk about this, is the gender difference.
Yes.
Is like dudes are becoming more conservative. The gals are becoming more liberal. And I don't know how you put let alone an election together on that, how you put together marriages on that, families. So like Brad Wilcox, who we've hosted, talks about like it's going to become an issue among building families and marriages.
Well, when we're dividing even dating apps based on politics, this is going to be an issue. And I've talked about that over and over again, that we are coming to in my opinion, again, because I said I'm not middle of the road in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just unaffiliated, that we are coming to a point where we are beginning to define our truth based on our politics, that we run everything through our political filter first before we decide whether or not we believe it. It's the idea of, if someone on MSNBC read you the weather forecast, you would go, it's obviously liberal. They don't know what they're talking about. And so you would, and even if it is sunny and 75 degrees outside and they say sunny and 75, you immediately discount it because of the source rather than the actual facts that are available to you. And both sides are doing it. And it's getting to a really, really scary place, because that's what we're going to do, is we're going to meet someone at a bar and go, hi, Republican, Democrat. That's going to be the first question.
But there are legitimate differences. I have a close friend who dealt with this in his marriage.
Yeah.
He's got 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And his wife said to him, if they end up in an unintended pregnancy, we're going to Planned Parenthood and we're getting an abortion.
Yeah.
And he went, you're going to kill our grandchild?
Yeah.
How again, that's a value difference. That's a very big one.
And the only thing that I would say is that my advice is you need to have that conversation
before you get married.
That's the issue, is you need to.
Exactly right.
Yeah, is have that conversation to figure out if this can work. I have a very good friend, really just a brilliant engineer, radio guy, and he and his wife are opposite. She is very conservative. He's very liberal.
Yeah.
And to the point where there are times I look at him and he starts talking politics. I'm like, that's crazy talk. But he and his wife have I want to say they've been married almost 32 years now.
Wow.
So
I think that's pretty rare.
It is really rare. And you know what it is? He says, he smiles at me, he goes, we don't talk politics.
Yeah, well, they don't talk about
and he said that's the issue. He goes, either one of us is allowed a rant. We can rant inside the house and go, I'm so mad about, but you don't engage. We don't have the debate. We just acknowledge it. Yeah. He said that's the only way it works.
But
they're great.
To your bar scenario, maybe you have to go. I mean, if you have to have that conversation ahead of time, maybe you do.
I know.
But that is where I think you're going to see one of the biggest demographic differences in this election is that women going a lot more towards the Democrat Party, Republicans, or men going a lot more towards the Republican Party.
I think you say that, yeah.
Your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service and valuable advice and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table. By not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, Gay and her experts get the clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. If it's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team today. We hosted her in the office last Friday in the studio. Absolutely wonderful. Highly recommend working with her. Call 833-301-SOLD or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, let's get to David from California. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, hey, morning. Hey, you know, before I got started, there was an ad there that ran that Prager guy. Was he Prager University?
Yeah.
Is he a hypnotist?
Why do you say that?
Well, I just listened to him. He was almost like some comedy hypnotist out of a Boris Karloff movie or something.
We've got about 30 seconds. Go ahead, David.
Well, I heard you talking about Democrats and Republicans and whether we're going to get anything done. You know, we the people elect a representative to help our district, you know, and it's whether or not they have the ability to actually build a budget to make our government run smooth and straight, that we, you know, have gasoline, have weights and measures to make sure that we actually get a dollar's worth.
I wish that was the case. I wish they were judged on their ability to deliver for their constituents. They're judged more on their ability to deliver for special interest groups, unfortunately.
Are you giving up on that?
Well, I'd like to see it, but I go down to the Capitol to testify a lot, and it seems to be delivering for their special interest groups. David from California, thanks so much for the call. When we come back, we've got Cam Edwards, journalist at Bearing Arms, talking about this red flag gun control laws maybe coming at the national level. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Oh, man, we've had a lot of callers and texts giving it to us today.
I know. Both of us taking it. It's been
Bart
good.
Simpson quote was spot on.
Was it ever?
Man.
Good
Good
fun.
morning, Denver. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's going to be a pretty nice day. Partly cloudy today in Denver, 52 degrees. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussion, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear.
If you're just joining us, where you been?
Yeah,
where you been? You missed some fun stuff in the 6. Go back and check out the podcast.
And if you're still here, you survived the wrestling match that was the 6 a.m. hour.
Oh, that was so much fun, though.
It has kind of become a wrestling match.
Yeah, it has.
At
It
least
has
the
been,
last
absolutely.
2 days.
Yes, and it should be.
I
at
mean,
times.
it's I think part of this challenge for me is I've been in so much in the policy world. Getting into all these court cases is just not that. On either side.
That's a good point.
Right? Like, I couldn't really tell you about the investigations Republicans are doing into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and all that stuff. And I need to. I understand it's going to be an election season, all that stuff. Same time, providing a defense for Ronna McDaniel's calls to Michigan. I mean, it's like you know, a great point. I've spent most of my career thinking through what is the rational foundation and basis for believing that the state should honor marriage between one man and one woman, or that life begins at the moment of conception. Or
and you're great at that.
And now it's I'm reading court cases at night. So that's
my friend,
my life.
That's why I think, my friend, this is so important. And the conversations we have are so important, because these are conversations that voters are having. These are conversations that people have when they're choosing who they're going to want to run our country, both and even your local elections. And it's hard because your frustration is 110% justified, because that's the frustration of the average voter. The idea that I've got to deal with this minutia in the court case rather than dealing with the issues that sit on my kitchen table.
That actually
That's the
affects
problem.
my life.
Yeah.
Like, does Alvin
You're
Bragg
right.
have a good case?
Yes.
Did he unfairly prosecute Trump?
I
All that.
know.
But that's what's going to happen between now and November. So
that's why we do the wrestling matches for you. So
I'll read the court cases and do my best. And to all of our lovely text messengers who come to my defense, you are smarter than me, and I appreciate that.
Oh,
so
they're
please,
fantastic.
like Joan, don't leave. Stay, Joan. Gage, I need you.
I know.
And
they got to stick around, and there are lots of them that lots of them saying nice and bad things about me as well, which I appreciate. It's I just wish that the ones that poke fun or say or call names to either you or I, and again, it was just about split evenly, which to me tells me we're doing the right thing. But the issue is that anybody can call names. I got that on the playground in middle school. I mean, come and engage with the gray matter. Let's do it that way, because that's what's more interesting. We can sit here and call people names all the time. You want us to call names? I can do it. I'm really, really good at it. But that doesn't get us anywhere. So, well.
Coming up here after the news is going to be Cam Edwards. He's a journalist with Bearing Arms. We're going to do a deep dive into this kind of, you may have seen it, this new like red flag office at the DOJ, but we don't have a national red flag law. Kamala Harris announced it on the anniversary of the Florida school shooting that took place in 2018. The White House has announced a new national office to support states implementing red flag laws to combat gun violence, an initiative funded by the Justice Department. The vice president met with victims' families, many of whom had been active in gun control advocacy since the shooting, and visited the building where 14 students and 3 members were slain. The launch of the Federal Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center, ERPO, follows Joe Biden's establishment of the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention in September, when the president tapped Harris to lead it. After she's done such a great job with the border, we're expecting big things. Maybe those
stunning
of us
leadership, all the stuff that she's done.
Maybe those of us that like the Second Amendment are like, okay, actually put her in charge of that.
Exactly. She's I don't have nothing to fear.
Exactly. I mean, at this point, aren't illegal aliens allowed to own guns? There was that court case.
I think so.
Operated through the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions and paid for by a Justice Department grant, ERPO is designed to help state and local governments, law enforcement, and others, including behavioral health and social service providers, to optimize the use of red flag laws. I mean, when you read this statement put up by it is classic government speak where you're like, they're not really telling us what they're doing.
No, not a lot. And I love the idea of optimize. We're going to optimize. Really, which again to me says that this is an encouragement aspect.
Yes.
This is something where they are trying to
100%.
maximize it. And you're absolutely right. This is the Biden administration trying to create, I wouldn't say a set of laws, maybe, but a set of rules and regulations without the legislation. And I got a problem with that.
And if Bill the Independent has a problem with what you're doing, you probably have a problem.
Yeah, either that or I'm drunk.
So joining us just after the news with Blake Olson is going to be Cam Edwards, a journalist with Bearing Arms, to provide some details on this. You're not going to want to miss this conversation because those of us that live in Colorado deal with these red flag laws. So we'll dive in all of that after the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, guys. You guys quit playing kissy face. It's kind of making me sick.
Well, the thing is that Jeff has very, very soft hands. I'm just saying. He's,
the first hour.
Stop already. 30 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the lower 50s. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: 2 people face criminal charges after the body of a missing man was found in Eagle County this past weekend. The body was found on the west side of Lake Christine and was identified as belonging to Josue Isaiah Cruz de Cid, who had been missing since March 12th. His cause and manner of death are still being determined. Nelson Clara Garay and Angel Lopez Escobar are charged with tampering with the deceased human body and concealing death. U.S. Forest Service officials say the Full Moon Dam at Crystal Lake in Ouray has developed a serious crack. The dam has been given a high hazard rating, meaning there would be a significant loss of life or property if it were to fail. Officials currently looking into how to fix the problem. The search resuming this morning for 6 people presumed dead after the cargo ship hit a major Maryland bridge. Of course, the search for the missing workers was suspended Tuesday night because of visibility issues and treacherous currents. Officials on Tuesday said maritime traffic through the port is being suspended until further notice. A federal appeals court is extending a hold on a Texas law that would give the state the power to arrest migrants suspected of crossing the border illegally. The 2-1 ruling maintains a block on the law while litigation continues. Gen Z conservative influencer Isabel Brown, a Coloradan, on with Jeff and Bill last hour, and she is encouraged by young people and their ideology.
52% of newly registered voters in the United States are registering as independent with a capital I. That might freak a lot of people out from the Republican Party or the conservative movement of old, but I'm highly encouraged by this reality because it tells me that even teenagers today are waking up and saying, I'm not just a prize to be won over. I won't blindly follow whatever candidate Taylor Swift tells me to vote for or what my professor is trying to bully me into believe in my classroom.
Yeah, I agree. I hear it all the time. Encouraging to listen to. Hey, today, a special day for some. As my computer falls apart once again. Man, I have had issues this morning with the computer. All right, it's 25 in Englewood, 26 in Arvada, and 30 in Denver. Maybe I can
To
get
all
it
the
now.
people named Joe, Joey, Joseph, and Josephine, today is your day as it's National Joe Day. The Social Security Administration says it's the 8th most popular boy's name in the country, and there are many famous
don't
Joes
believe
out
that.
there. Montana, Pesci, Biden, DiMaggio, and Walsh, to name a few. Joe's a good guy. He's your pal, and you should do something nice for the Joe in your life today.
Oh my gosh.
I'm Bree Tennis.
This is now I will get conspiracy theorists. This was done as an election year ploy to
That is very
make
convenient.
Joe look better.
I agree. Shouldn't it be
He's
in
your
October,
buddy.
though?
He's your pal.
Right.
Give him 4 more years.
It's amazing. Those Joes, they're such good Joes.
You know, it'll be on Sesame Street this year.
Yeah,
It'll be,
absolutely.
It's Joe
It's for
Day.
Joe.
Yes.
That's
All the
right.
famous Joes. And they only have a picture of Biden. That's what they're going to do.
I can hear it now. All right, the Nuggets go for 5 straight tonight in Lodo. The Suns in town. The Avalanche lose to the Canadians. Their 9-game win streak comes to an end. The Rockies opening day tomorrow against the Diamondbacks. And Jeff and Bill continue on the 8 o'clock hour. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a bit more of a spring-like pattern for Denver in the Front Range. Still a touch cool, but a little warmer, near 50 today. Partly cloudy, upper 20s tonight. Warming to the lower 60s Thursday, then temperatures on Friday about 60. Friday afternoon and evening and Friday night will bring a chance of showers. Still mild, making the 60s Saturday and Sunday, but areas of rain and snow Sunday night into Monday, and Sunday night and the Monday and Tuesday will be much cooler. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, the White House launches a new push for red flag laws. Joining us on the show is Cam Edwards. Cam has covered the Second Amendment for 20 years as a broadcast and online journalist, as well as serving on the board of directors for the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. He lives outside Farmville, Virginia with his family, 3 dogs, 2 barn cats, a flock of chickens, and an undisclosed number of firearms for their protection. Cam, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for the invite, guys.
So tell us about this office. Are they actually setting up new red flag laws nationally?
No, that is the one good thing about this proposal is that this does not impose a national red flag law. You've got 21 states, including Colorado, that have red flag laws on the books. This is going to funnel money to those states. It's also going to sort of serve as a carrot, right, dangled in front of these states that don't have red flag laws and say, hey, look at all the federal money that you're passing up by not having a red flag law, right? So they're going to try to, use this as an incentive for other states to adopt red flag measures. And I think that we're also going to start to see them try to impose a uniform standard of what a red flag law should look like, right? As you know, every state has a sort of different procedure. They will go back and they will revise the procedure, right? Colorado expanded who can file a petition last year. And in fact, Colorado may be one of the models, frankly, that the Biden administration is looking at to impose nationwide because of how broad your red flag law is.
Wow. Give us some details on that. People in Colorado know generally that we have red flag laws, but how does it compare to other states? You mentioned it could be a model. What makes our model unique?
Well, I think because of how broad the reporting standards are, right? The original red flag law in Colorado, law enforcement or a family member were the only ones who could file a petition. And then last year, the Democrats expanded this to now teachers, nurses, doctors, I believe dating partners and former dating partners, a person related by blood, marriage, or adoption, a person who has a child in common with the petitioner or the respondent. Basically, if you know somebody, you can file a red flag petition. And that's what they want. It's fascinating to see how this has evolved over the decades, because when red flag laws were first introduced in states like Indiana and Connecticut about 25 years ago, it's kind of like how Democrats used to talk about abortion, right? Safe, legal, and rare. These were not supposed to be used a lot. But over the past couple of years, there has been this real push to start using these red flag petitions as frequently as possible. So New York Governor Kathy Hochul, for example, instructed the New York State Police, file these petitions whenever you can. And there have been such an explosion of red flag petitions in New York that now the state police have trouble storing all of the guns that they've seized. They've run out of room. I mean, that's really scary. So, the goal now, I think, is to try to disarm as many Americans as possible using these red flag laws.
Talking with Cam Edwards, he's the editor of Bearing Arms. I mean, the argument on their side is, look, like in the case of Florida, you have the guy who engaged at Marjorie Douglas. Is that the name of the high school?
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
Yeah, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School was clearly out of his mind. We want to try to keep weapons out of the hands of dangerous people. What's your response to that argument on their side?
Well, first of all, so yesterday, actually, I was just talking with Ryan Petty, whose daughter Elena was murdered in the attack at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. He's not a fan of this. He's very concerned. And as he said, this distracts from the fact that there were multiple government failures before Parkland. The FBI, had been informed that this guy was planning a shooting. School officials were well aware of this guy's problems. So there were opportunities to intervene. And the government, whether it was the local school system, local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, failed to do that. So that's one issue, right? That this distracts from the failures of government. The other problem, though, is that, one of the other problems is that there is no mental health component to a red flag law. This is simply about taking the guns away, and then the problem is supposedly solved, right? Even though we're talking about people who are supposedly dangerous, they pose a danger to themselves or others. There was a case in New York, for example, where a guy who threatened to kill his brother and his family with an axe was subjected to a red flag petition. So now he can't buy a gun, but you know what he can do? He can go to the sporting goods store and buy an axe, right? I don't think that solves the problem here. This is a mental health issue, and there are no mental health components to red flag laws whatsoever. It's not like the person who is the subject of a petition is, interviewed or diagnosed by a mental health professional. There is no help offered to somebody who has been deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. This is a way not only for the gun control lobby to disarm Americans, but it's frankly a way for politicians to ignore the genuine crisis that we have in our mental health systems, because they say, well, we have a red flag law, problem solved.
Talking with Cam Edwards, he's the editor at Bearing Arms, about Kamala Harris in the White House announcing a new office to implement red flag gun control laws. My concern over red flag laws, and look, I understand there's a portion of the voting population here in Colorado that doesn't want any restrictions on the Second Amendment whatsoever. I understand the concern and desire to want to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. But where I struggle as a constitutionalist is the due process side of this, right? It seems like those that are willing to implement red flag laws are willing to let the ends justify the means. We've got to keep guns out of the hands of people. So does due process really matter? It's better to not have mass shootings. So let's implement this law. That's where I struggle with it. Can you talk a little bit about the due process side of this?
Yeah. And again, it varies from state to state, right? I mean, you have some states that I think make a genuine effort to try to have some due process standards. Many states, for example, don't allow for, if you can't hire an attorney, you can't afford to hire an attorney, you're on your own, because this is a civil matter. This isn't a criminal case. Even though you're going up against, the district attorney, you're not entitled to legal representation in most states. There are some states that say, you know what, that's wrong. We're going to make sure that you actually have a court-appointed attorney if you can't hire one. That's one way to improve due process. Getting rid of ex parte hearings, where these are the emergency hearings where the subject of a petition is not even aware that a petition has been filed. They have no opportunity to present a defense, right?
No way.
That's a huge process.
Hey, we had a trial about you. So sorry you didn't know about it.
Right. Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And you can come back in 2 weeks and explain your side of the story.
After we take your guns. Yeah.
We treat in this way. So I think you're right. Look, if there is somebody who poses a danger to themselves or others, in every state of the union, we have involuntary commitment laws where police or family members can say, hey, this person's in a crisis. Let's take them to a hospital. Let's get them evaluated. And if they need treatment, then let's make sure that they get that treatment. The problem is that while those laws exist on paper, in practice, because of our crumbling mental health system, you got people in crisis who are stuck in ERs for 24 to 48 hours. They're stuck in a jail cell because there's nowhere else to put them. In Colorado, look, I mean, you guys are lower than the national average. You've got 83 inpatient psychiatric beds per 100,000 people. In, I think, 2023, there were 482 beds statewide. rather than go after law-abiding gun owners, rather than try to infringe on people's constitutional rights, including the right to due process, why don't the Democrats in Denver actually get serious about addressing this? Not only would you be dealing with, people who are in an acute crisis, but you'd be helping those folks who are struggling with their mental health on a daily basis, right? Who aren't necessarily in a crisis, but do need some help. And they don't want to talk about this. Again, they want to ban their way to safety, and it's not going to work.
Talking with Cam Edwards, editor of Bearing Arms, about this new White House push for red flag laws. So the American citizens should not expect that there is a national law yet. Obviously, this seems to be the direction that they want to go with it. Is it likely that we're going to face a national red flag law?
I think it all depends on November.
Yeah.
The Democrats have told us what they want to do if they have the power in Washington, D.C. And yeah, we'd be looking at a national red flag law. We'd be looking at a national ban on so-called assault weapons, probably a national waiting period. They have a lot of plans in store if they have the power to enact these types of laws. And yeah, a national red flag law that would be administered by the federal government is definitely part of their plans.
This is literally what we live through in Colorado anytime that the legislative session is in. I mean, this year, they're already going after your ability to store a gun in your truck. They're going after the assault weapons ban. I think that may be tabled at this point. Do you have any updates on Colorado law? I know you're not based here, but have you been tracking this with Bearing Arms?
Yeah, I have been, and I'm curious to see. I think there's supposed to be a hearing today on the gun ban bill, and I'm curious to see what happens. That's been amended. One of the fascinating things about what the Democrats are doing with gun control this year in Colorado is that they're still very interested in imposing more restrictions, but it doesn't seem like they want to put anybody behind bars for a violent crime or a possessory crime, right? So the original penalty for violating this assault weapons ban was, I believe, a $250,000 fine. No jail time. Right, but you'd be bankrupt. And now I think it's been amended to a petty offense, which is the lowest criminal offense, punishable by $500 fine and up to 6 months in jail. So I think the Democrats, honestly, I don't know. I think they're confused. They don't want to put criminals behind bars. They don't want us to own guns, right? And so they're conflicted here. How do we do both of these things? How do we stop people from exercising their Second Amendment rights without leading to quote unquote mass incarceration? And I think what they've settled on is, well, let's try to bankrupt these gun owners, right? Let's try to make it financially unfeasible to exercise your Second Amendment rights. We see the same thing with, the sensitive places, the new gun-free zones that they're trying to put into effect in Colorado. I think it's what they're doing is worthless. Let's focus on the violent criminals. Crime in Colorado has gotten so bad over the past 10 years as you guys have adopted magazine bans, red flag laws, universal background checks. None of those things have brought crime down.
Right.
Crime just keeps getting worse and worse. So when do you start focusing on the violent criminals?
That's exactly right. We're talking with Cam Edwards. He's the editor at Bearing Arms. What we're used to in the state of Colorado is passing unconstitutional laws or trying to keep candidates off of ballots and then watching it go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court just to be shot down time and time again. It seems like that's what Colorado is known for, unfortunately, these days. Where does all of this end with the U.S. Supreme Court and their recent decisions about the Second Amendment?
Well, that is the $10 million question, I think, right now. The Supreme Court has declined to weigh in on an emergency basis in a couple of cases since the Bruin decision came down. That was the decision that shot down California and New York's, may issue carry laws. There are several petitions pending right now, including a challenge to Illinois' ban on so-called assault weapons. That case is still not gone to trial, but the Seventh Circuit has declined to issue a preliminary injunction, basically saying that AR-15s and other semi-automatic rifles are not protected by the Second Amendment because they're, quote, like machine guns. So that's one area where I hope that the Supreme Court's going to step in. They're also being asked to hear a challenge to Maryland's ban on so-called assault weapons. And I don't know how likely it is that the court is going to step in at an earlier stage, but they need to, because the lower courts are just running roughshod over Bruin. They are taking the court out of context. They are upholding clearly unconstitutional gun laws. And it is time for the Supreme Court to wade back into this issue and to remind the lower courts that the Second Amendment is not a second-class right.
Now, Cam Edwards with Jeff and Bill this morning. Thank you for joining us. I want to go back to some of the conversation we had earlier about mental health. And I've heard a lot of concerns about mental health and mental health process for things like red flag laws and other things. If the issue that we're dealing with is really the mental health of the gun owners, should we have some sort of a mental health process or check involved in ownership?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Listen, well, because you can be perfectly fine one day, and then the next day, let's say you lose your job, your husband or wife decides that they're going to file for divorce. All of a sudden, now you're in a crisis. I don't think that you can, and I also think that there's, again, a constitutional issue here. What other constitutional rights do we have that we have to be pre-screened in order to exercise? So I have an issue from that regard. But again, I think we're not just talking about the mental health of gun owners. We're talking about the mental health of Coloradans or the mental health of Americans, right? We're talking about the hundreds of people who will die from a drug overdose in Colorado this year. Not just the people who will die from a gun-related suicide, not just the people who will, use a firearm to try to kill somebody else. If the issue here is the mental health of somebody, whether they're a current gun owner, whether you're trying to stop somebody from owning a gun, I would say, again, the fundamental issue is that person's dangerousness, both to themselves and others. And a red flag law or screening somebody for mental health, in California, for example, some jurisdictions require you to take a psychological exam before you can get a concealed carry license. All that really does is, provide psychologists with a steady income stream. But California still has plenty of violent crime. Law-abiding gun owners or concealed carry holders rarely commit crimes to begin with in California, Colorado, and any other state of the union. So I don't think that is an effective approach. It's going to lead to, delays in terms of people being able to access their Second Amendment rights. It is also, I think, something that could be weaponized in some jurisdictions where, the powers that be don't want people to own a firearm. So again, I think the issue here, ultimately, if it's mental health, we need to take it out of the gun arena and put it solely in its own spotlight, right? And let's talk about mental health in all of its aspects and all of its components.
Well, that's a great point, and I agree with that. The thing I would go back to is the beginning of the conversation, the beginning of your answer. You talked about that person who has lost their job or is facing a crisis. That would be the person that I would think is the exact example of the person that should not get a hold of a gun at that point, regardless. And that's why I asked the question about mental health. And I agree with you that is a larger mental health conversation. But the reason I pull it into the gun conversation is because I keep hearing over and over again that we do not have a crisis of gun ownership. We have a mental health crisis. And if we do, then maybe we need to have a conversation about making sure the people in crisis can't get a hold of the firearms, if that is the causal relationship that we are talking about. But we don't want to do that. And I'm curious as to why we refuse to do that and have that discussion.
Well, I think part of it is because, first of all, I don't think we refuse to have that discussion. I think we disagree on what the answer is.
That's fair.
There are actually a lot of programs within the Second Amendment community that seek to address this very issue. So there's a nonprofit called Hold My Guns. There's a group called Walk the Talk America. In Wisconsin, there's the Wisconsin Gunshot Project. And all of these programs basically say they take gun store owners. And these gun store owners say, listen, if you need a place to temporarily store your firearms, if you are in a crisis, or if somebody in your family's in a crisis, or maybe you're just going out of town for a week or two and you don't want to leave your guns unsecured, you can store your firearms here with us. No questions asked. And when you want to get your guns back, you can get your guns back. No questions asked. But we want you to be safe in that moment of crisis. And here's a way to do this where the gun owner retains agency, right? Where it's not the heavy hand of the state coming in and saying, you can't own a gun. It's the gun owner who says, you know what? This is a good idea for me to get my guns out of my house for the next couple of days or the next week or so. I think that is a much better approach. I think it is certainly a much more constitutionally sound approach. And again, it opens the door to gun owners talking about things like mental health. Most of us who are longtime gun owners, and most of us of a certain age, know somebody who's taken their own life. We care about these things. We want to save these people. I've lost friends to gun-related suicide. So this isn't something that I don't care about. This isn't something that I treat casually. I want to do something that works. I want to do something that respects our rights. And I think that this voluntary approach is a much better way to address the issue than a red flag law.
Oh, that is beautiful. I appreciate that, because I 110% agree with you that if we can give the gun owner the agency, but also the understanding about that mental health crisis, and not view it as a black mark or something negative, that we all go through these mental health crises. And as a fellow gun owner, hey, when you're going through this, maybe not having the guns readily available is the best thing, because sometimes bad things happen, and that you have that agency over it. I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you. That was fantastic.
Cam Edwards,
absolutely.
He's the editor of Bearing Arms. We're talking Kamala Harris and the new office to implement red flag gun control coming out of the Department of Justice. Cam has covered the Second Amendment for 20 years as a broadcast and online journalist, as well as serving on the board of directors for the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. You can follow him online at twitter.com/Cam Edwards. You're one of the early adopters. You got your actual name on Twitter.
Cam, I was one of the early Twitters too. I will say I'm not all that active on social media because I think it's bad for our mental health. So you can follow me. But I post about once every 4 or 5 months.
There you go. But you can read all these articles. They do a lot of updates. I was impressed with the number of articles at bearingarms.com. You guys are constantly publishing multiple times a day. Go to bearingarms.com. Cam, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for the invite, guys. Hope we get a chance to do this again soon.
Absolutely. Very impressive. Do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are you ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to seek God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. They also take the students on a Colorado adventure to experience the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship just for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer, June 17th through the 21st. The event is designed for juniors and seniors in high school, and again, is absolutely free. To learn more, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. Let us know what you think about this National Red Flag Office. Obviously, they're not at the point of passing a national red flag bill or law, but they've now created this new office, the Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. And they're going to continue to push this at the national level, 21 states with red flag laws. Do you think Colorado's red flag law works? Are you in support of it? Do you think it violates our Second Amendment? We should get rid of it. And if so, how do you deal with making sure we don't have guns in the hands of people that are facing a mental health crisis? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Just wrapped up a great conversation with Cam Edwards, editor at Bearing Arms, on this kind of national red flag office. It's not a law yet. And he says it'll come down to this November as to whether or not Democrats move to have a national red flag law. But they're definitely pushing with what they have to try to promote red flag laws. 21 states have implemented red flags. And they want to provide funding to those states that do so that they can better implement it. Question as to whether or not that's making a difference. Is it constitutional? All that. You've heard that here in Colorado. Text message from Tom in Denver. Crime rates are down in Colorado and across the country. Additionally, crime rates have been trending down, falling for the last 40 years. Anyone under 55 years old in America has never experienced the crime rates of the Reagan years. Cam Edwards knows this, but is lying. Interesting. I don't know if that's, I think it's hard to say that Colorado is doing super well with regards to crime. I'm looking at Common Sense Institute, which did a snapshot in November. And yeah, some of them are. Some of the different types of crimes are going around. Other ones have steadily gone up. Crimes against persons have gone up. Motor vehicle theft has definitely gone up in the state. Other ones, crimes against property have trended down a little bit, but they went up between 2019 and 2022. So this year, dropping down to about 2020 levels. And then all offense types are down a little bit after skyrocketing in 2021 and 2022. So I don't think you can make a clear argument one way or the other that these red flag laws have been the cause of any type of drops in crime. But that's a secondary issue to me on whether or not the ends justify the means. There's debate in the state of Colorado, and we have friends of, I'm a supporter of Rocky Mountain gun owners who are no compromise, period. I want to keep guns out of the hands of people that are mentally ill. I support what RMGO does. They probably don't agree with me on that, but I think it's fine to try to keep guns out of the hands of people that are mentally ill. I care about how you do that. I care a lot, and I think that's where Cam and I would agree that these red flag laws have serious constitutional questions in my mind around due process. So.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's where I fall on that line.
Yeah. The major problem that I have in much of the gun conversation is the status quo. I hear many people that are Second Amendment supporters by default defend the status quo. And I have a hard time coming to the conclusion that what we're seeing now with guns, gun violence, crime, everything related to that in this country is acceptable, that this was the intent of the Second Amendment, and this was the intent of gun ownership. And that's the problem. And I don't think, and I'm not blaming the Second Amendment supporters and such for that. I am blaming us as Americans for not wanting to have what I say is a real open and honest conversation, because I believe people on the right side of the issue, the conservative side of the issue, become too intractable on certain things, and the left as well. I firmly disagree with the left and their opinion that certain military style weapons should absolutely be banned, that no one can have them. Mm-hmm. I know people that I would trust implicitly to have them, but there are others, no way should they ever have their hands on them. So I'm not dogmatic about it, but I hear that from the left. And this problem that we have with gun violence, both inflicting it on ourselves and others, can't be solved by being dogmatic. It has to be solved through compromise and understanding through both sides. But the people that are on the extremes don't want that. And I feel sometimes they have the largest voice. I liked a lot what Cam said about the gun owners taking some responsibility. And I feel people on the left view that as, oh, the gun owners don't want to take any responsibility. And the people on the right see the liberals saying they don't want to let us have any responsibility. They don't trust us having any.
Take all the guns.
They don't trust us to make the right choice. And I'm like, wait a minute. The people that I know that are firearm owners make wonderful choices.
Yep.
I trust them implicitly. And, and I'm a firearm owner as well. I don't trumpet it, but we have guns in our house, but it's not, that's the thing. But I'm not looking at those guns in my house thinking that I'm defending my castle per se. Those are implements for me, for food, for hunting. And that's how I view those tools. And they are tools. And again, it is the person that is responsible for the gun violence. And the tool is there, but we just don't have the conversation. It sucks.
Conservatives are going to lean more on the idea of reforming our social problems. So you're going to have more stable families, which can be better gun owners. And to have stable families, you need to have dads in the home. So you need healthy marriages. Conservatives are going to lean on that and want to protect that fundamental Second Amendment right, which they think is what makes America great. But they are going to lean less on government regulation, and some of these down at the state capitol, you're like, come on.
Yeah. And the thing though is understand the idea of strengthening marriage, etc. But without some government programs or things like that, we can't really get there. And so I understand the idea of the liberals figuring government can solve these problems coming in, but I still hear on the conservative side, the functionality and the changes they want to see in society would also be result of governmental changes in some ways. And so I think that both sides want the government to do what they want. They just disagree on what the government should be doing. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. We all both are looking for the solutions, but we don't really want to have a conversation about what's going on in the middle, that we have a generation that has grown up with school safety drills. A generation that has grown up. I was in high
school when Columbine happened.
A generation that has grown up knowing that the act of going to school can mean they don't come home at night. Mm-hmm. And that's different based on the educational experience you're going to have. And so, but again, it is a conversation we can't have today. It's way too big and heavy. It's way too heavy.
0359, can we get Taylor Rhodes on the discussion? Absolutely. Taylor's a friend. We hosted RMGO. Dudley Brown spoke at the Western Conservative Summit last year and brought Kyle Rittenhouse. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the role that RMGO plays in this discussion by standing strong. I mean, unequivocally standing on the Second Amendment, and it's an important voice in this conversation. So we'll see. We'll get Taylor on. Taylor's a regular on our show, so we'll get him back on. But I wanted to check out Cam. Interesting. I've been seeing bearingarms.com, the website, and very smart, very knowledgeable. So glad he was able to join us. Jeff Hunt here from my friends at Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggested you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com, 303-770-5551. All right, next hour, Donald Trump selling Bibles. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I'd like to have more presidents and politicians promoting the Bible and the founding documents. I think it's great. Wow. So I'd love to get your calls. I'm sure Bill and I will have a difference on this one.
And he's putting both of them in the same thing. He's putting the Constitution and the next to the, okay.
So on this point, we'll play the audio in just a second, which is great. 2 years ago, we did a publication out of the Centennial Institute called America's 3 Founding Documents. we always think about two founding documents, right? The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We went through and spent about a year researching this, actual sourced quotes of founding fathers all the way up to Barack Obama and Donald Trump talking about the role of the Bible in the formation of this nation. So I think it's totally apropos to believe that the Bible was critical in the founding of this nation, not as a theological document for the creation of this nation. They didn't sit down and go, well, this is, according to Deuteronomy 15, this is how this office is going to be implemented or anything like that. But this culture was heavily influenced by the teachings of the Bible, which created the greatest country in the history of the world. And we've had so many politicians move away from the Bible that I'm glad to see one willing to sell it. Does he fully believe it? That's another question, and we can get into that. I'd love to hear your texts and calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
I bet Donald Trump is going to be the top Bible salesman in America this year.
I'm not sure that's a good thing. I'm not sure that that's a plus. I'm not sure that is a positive thing for the overall part of the health of religion. Oh, what does
I
that say?
think it's wonderful.
What does that
Listen to this
say?
just real quick before we wrap up here.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend, Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father.
So it's not, it's not the Donald Trump Bible. He's getting a royalty for pushing it, but
that's weird.
Donald Trump, top Bible salesman of the year. I bet that will happen. We're going to get into more of this audio, and we want to get your calls and text. You're listening
That's a sign of the
to
apocalypse.
the Jeff Bell Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. It's 9 a.m. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's going to be a nice day here in Denver, high of 52. Yeah. It's going to get warmer tomorrow, 65. So
I'm going to try to wash the car tomorrow.
Sunshine is out. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussion, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Let's grab another cup of coffee. It's my third. And let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. I got 90 minutes of sleep last night.
No way.
It's one of my
Yeah, tell me
brain
why.
is just like the hamster sometimes.
Isn't
and
that
I'm like,
awful?
God.
Isn't it?
I know. And you watch it, you're like,
Yeah.
6 hours down, 5 hours
Oh, it is.
down,
And
4 hours
And you
down.
have that conversation. You're like, if I go to sleep now, I can get this much sleep. And as soon as you do that, then you're focused on going to sleep immediately, and you're not actually going to
You're
sleep.
not actually going to
I
sleep.
saw a meme the other day that said it had some minstrels from an old Renaissance painting. You know, it's all weird looking and dressed up, and they're all playing music. And the meme was my brain at 1 o'clock in the morning when I have to get up early. Here come my anxieties and you know and
all that
all the other
stuff.
stuff.
And I even
yeah.
try to read. I'm reading William Wilberforce's publication from the mid 1700s, and that's when
Wow.
they write in 15 paragraph sentences.
Yeah.
And I still couldn't fall asleep.
Did
So-
you lose a bet? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, I know.
What happened?
So Wilberforce is my patron saint. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy that ended the helped end the slave trade. There was a big group that did.
Yeah.
But in Britain, helped end the slave trade. He was a man called by faith to engage in the public square, and brought about a whole bunch of reforms. Everything from actually educating the poor, which they didn't do back then. Educating the poor. He helped create the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. That whole movement
amazing.
started with Christians that said, hey, maybe we shouldn't engage in dogfighting, because it
Yeah.
was actually pretty popular back then.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was called bull baiting, and that's where bulldogs came from. They would tie a bull by stake down on the ground and then just let dogs attack them, and you would bet on which dog killed the bull.
Yeah. Which
So,
again,
you know,
that was
Christians were-
entertainment. You're like, wow,
I
guys.
know.
You know, I have an idea.
It's changed a little bit
Yeah,
since
it's
then.
just wow. Okay.
So I'm even trying to read, 18th century literature, and I can't fall asleep. So if there's a I know Mike Huckabee is out there promoting a sleep aid. I'd be happy to promote it. Give 710 a call.
The,
Jeff Hunt will talk to you all about the sleep aid he needs.
In my household, we have a joke that in the junk drawer, there's kind of a smaller universal size hammer, and I call that the night stick. So I always joke with the kids. They're like, no, time to go to bed. And they're like, no, I don't want to stay up. I'm like, I'll go get the night stick. I'm like, Dad. And so it was just a tease, but still.
Does this melatonin stuff work? I'm not big into taking this stuff.
Some people do
but-
very well with it. Some
Do
don't.
they?
It depends on amount. And again, it's your own body, physiology. So it can help in certain times, can't in others. Like you, though, it's not a surprise that the hamsters inside of my silly brain start running way too fast too at night. And I have to do some techniques. And the really weirdest thing, can't believe I'm going to say this. Okay, we're going to be honest here. The weirdest thing is I go back to elementary school. And that's some of the ways that I help myself relax at night. And it is very, very stupid.
What does that mean?
Okay, I'll explain. During elementary school, there was a point where, elementary kids can be kind of rowdy. And post recess, they implemented a program where we all would come in and have like 20 minutes of quiet time. And what it was is we all had our stupid little cots, the ones that your hair stands up on, and you had a pillow and a little blankie, and you'd lay down. And the guy that was the gym teacher, I don't know what his other background was, but he also would walk you through what I found out later were steps in self-meditation. And so what he would do is here, and he had this very nice voice, concentrate on this. You can feel this color or this feeling going from here at the top of your head and then slowly going down here and slowly going here. And this part of your body is relaxing and this part is relaxing. And it sounds so stupid, but little tiny elementary school me, it works. And so when my little hamsters are going too fast, I lean on that. And I'm not saying it works all the time, but it works better than most of the other things that happen. Because if I start thinking about what's going on in my head like you, well, but what about this?
Yep.
And what about this? And what about this? And all of a sudden you're like, why am I thinking about dinner 3 days from now? And what happened here? Yeah, exactly.
Text message here. The movie Amazing Grace is amazing. It's about William Wilberforce. Wonderful movie.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So that's where I got started on it. And then I helped create a whole consulting firm based on
What has been the thing that most surprised you when you've delved into Wilberforce's life, what is the thing that you've taken away that's been the most significant for you and surprising?
So I'm reading a book on the practice of Christianity among the elites in London in the late 1700s.
And the thing
how serious they were about their faith.
And it is the elite, so it is only practice.
Right.
Well,
that's his critique. That's literally his
See, there we
critique. He's
go.
like, you're not very serious Christians.
Yes, exactly.
And so he's like writing to all the elites, being like, the Bible,
You suck.
like one
Yeah.
line is like, your Bible's covered in dust.
Oh, that's
Get serious about it. So,
oh, that's wonderful.
Speaking of the Bible,
yeah. Speaking of, oddly,
I'm all for Donald Trump to be the top Bible salesman in America. What a time to be alive!
Wow.
Here you go.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood, who doesn't love his song "God Bless the USA," in connection with promoting the "God Bless the USA" Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible. And it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people.
All right. So I like Trump. I'm not going to say at all that he's a Bible believing Christian who's been personally saved. Now, I don't necessarily know that. And it's not fair for me to judge that. He could be saved. He could not be. But when I look at Donald Trump, I don't go, fellow brother in Christ. And, you know, the Holy Spirit is driving and motivating us. But maybe it's not fair for me to judge that. But, I am all for a president of the United States promoting the Bible to be sold along with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Pledge of Allegiance. So is he adding to the Bible? No, I wouldn't say he's adding to the Bible. It's not the Donald Trump Bible with new chapters about the Constitution and those types of things. So he's not degrading the Word of God. But I went to the Joe Biden website after that to see what Joe's selling.
Oh, yeah. What is Joe selling?
Joe is selling the Kamala Harris pride flag 2-pack.
Oh, wow.
Stickers. So
I would have thought I would have thought that it would have been the Kamala Harris a border mask, where it's like that slate mask and you can't see it. So it's totally dark, so you can't see the border problems. That's what I would have. I can't see it. Nope. Sorry. No problem with the border here. That's what I thought it would have been.
That is funny. That is funny. The Kamala Harris blindfold.
Yes,
the
that's what we need. The border mask for sleep. So then you don't have to worry about the illegals.
Look, politicians are hawking things to get donations and support themselves based upon the audiences they appeal to. Joe Biden's doing it with pride flags and Donald Trump's doing it with the Bible. I don't take it too seriously. I want to get to some of the audio of the other things he's been hawking, because when it's all put together and then you add the Bible, it's kind of amazing. But we'll get to the news with Blake Olson first. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. Let me put away my Kamala Harris joke book. 25 and sunny in Denver. Going to be a beautiful day with highs in the low 50s. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
To the victims of this tragedy and their loved ones, all of our hearts are broken.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore crews resume recovery efforts this morning at the scene of the bridge collapse in Baltimore. The head of the NTSB said that they have recovered the voyage data recorder.
Last year, over 47 million tons of foreign cargo passed through Baltimore Harbor. Officials on Tuesday said maritime traffic through the port is being suspended until further notice.
And that's Mark Mayfield reporting. 2 roadside workers seriously injured Tuesday after a crash on I-70 in Wheat Ridge. CDOT reminding drivers to slow down and be cautious. Speeding causes more problems on the road than anything else. Commerce City Police still searching for suspects after the deadly house party shooting Sunday morning. The shooters killed 18-year-old Shiloh Bennett. Ron Dermer, Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs, says the Biden administration and the rest of the world must understand they have no choice.
No, we obviously have no choice. There's no choice at all. I haven't given me choices.
No choice.
I'm just trying to help out here.
Three more seconds, Billy.
No worries. I can do that.
Essentially, we have dismantled the terrorist army of Hamas. We've got 5 battalions left. 4 of them are in Rafah. They have somewhere maybe 7,000, 8,000 terrorists there. We cannot afford to not go into Rafah and finish the job, because then what they'll do is October 7th again and again and again.
A clear plan, definitive, kind of like if someone invades your home, you have the right to shoot them. At least the sheriff in Santa Rosa, Florida understands that.
I guess they think that they did something wrong, which they did not. If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. So whoever that was, you're not in trouble. Come see us. We have a gun safety class we put on every other Saturday. And if you take that, you'll shoot a lot better, and hopefully you'll save taxpayers money.
That's Sheriff Bob Johnson. Love that guy. Best news of the day, Isabel Brown tells Jeff and Bill this morning, young people have their eyes open.
It tells me that even teenagers today are waking up and saying, I'm not just a prize to be won over. I won't blindly follow whatever candidate Taylor Swift tells me to vote for, or what my professor is trying to bully me into believe in my classroom.
Amen to that. 32 in North Glen, 34 in Aurora, and 35 in Denver. Nuggets going for 5 straight tonight in Lodo. The Suns in town. The Avalanche lose to the Canadians 2-1. That means their 9-game win streak comes to an end. And opening day for the Colorado Rockies tomorrow night at the Diamondbacks. Jeff and Bill continues in the 9 o'clock hour. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a bit more of a spring-like pattern for Denver in the Front Range. Still a touch cool, but a little warmer, near 50 today. Partly cloudy, upper 20s tonight. Warming to the lower 60s Thursday, then temperatures on Friday about 60. Friday afternoon and evening and Friday night will bring a chance of showers. Still mild, making the 60s Saturday and Sunday, but areas of rain and snow Sunday night into Monday, and Sunday night and the Monday and Tuesday will be much cooler. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
Donald Trump could possibly be America's top Bible salesman yesterday.
How that doesn't spawn a lightning strike, I'm not sure.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend, Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence.
Somebody else put together all the other things he's been pushing in addition to the Bible. This is wonderful.
I enjoy steaks of this quality in one of my resort restaurants or America's finest steakhouses, but now that's changed. Today, through the Sharper Image, you can enjoy the world's greatest steaks in your own home with family, friends, any. So what do you think of my Trump Home mattress collection by Sir? Finally, the same luxury and comfort I demand in my hotels.
Oh, they'll never count sheep again.
Mr. Trump, please. My new game is Trump, the game. Trump, the game where you deal for everything you ever wanted to own. Because it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether you win. Yes! Play Trump, the game from Milton Bradley.
I think you'll like it.
Vodka, and I'm very proud of the fact, actually, that I don't drink, but
This
it's
is
vodka
vodka.
that people really like, and as you know, it's taken off like crazy.
We're going to have professors and adjunct professors that are absolutely terrific people, terrific brains, successful. We are going to have the best of the best. And honestly, if you don't learn from them, if you don't learn from me, if you don't learn from the people that we're going to be putting forward, and these are all people that are handpicked by me,
That hurt him in the court case.
then you're just not going to make it in terms of the world.
Will be the Trump shuttle that services air commuters between Boston
airline.
and Washington.
Okay, I thought we were going to
People
space.
wanting this very much, as we all know, and it was just
He was
really a nice
Elon before
victory, a very
Elon.
sweet
Yeah.
victory.
I think he did that like right before the airline collapsed, though. Timing was awful.
We were the first plane out this morning. We were the most successful flight this morning. We had more people than anybody else, and I think we had better service than anybody else. my suits will guarantee you're always boardroom ready. But every great suit needs a great shirt and tie. My dress shirts are 100% cotton.
I did not
ensuring you
know at
look
the end of
sharp
this when
all
he
day long.
sells
Get a bold
pieces of the
satin
suit he
tie
got
with a
the
double window
mugshot in.
knot.
We got to talk about that in a sec. Because yeah, I got to
one
talk about
last
that.
tip.
Oh my goodness.
Top it off with a pair of elegant cufflinks, and you're ready for business. The Donald J. Trump Signature Collection, only at Macy's.
The Trump network wants to give millions of people renewed hope and with an exciting plan to opt out of the recession. Let's get out of this recession right now. With cutting-edge health and wellness formulas and a system where you can develop your own financial independence, the Trump network offers people the opportunity to achieve their American dream. I'm still looking.
Bottle of water, Trump water, actually. Most of it. Some of it we had to go to a much.
Is he
less
walking on the
quality
water?
Yeah, maybe.
You want to get those Trump bottles, I think, more than anybody else. But we're bringing a beautiful coffee table book put out by Winning Team Publishing. Every photo in it, and there are many, has been picked by me, and every caption is my own. Trading cards are back with a bang.
Trump
Series 2,
trading
the
cards?
collection
Oh, these were
features
stupid.
incredible artwork of me as a rock star and also as a monster trucker.
From him
People
because
love to collect
NFTs.
baseball
Yeah.
cards, but why
just
settle
dumb.
for that when you
NFTs are
can
dumb.
collect the greatest trading card in history, like Trump digital trading cards? And they love what we've done. That's the real deal.
Those are
That's
his
the
shoes.
real deal.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
Talking about his shoes that
Yeah.
he just launched.
It is an authentic piece of the suit I wore when I took that now famous
This
mugshot.
one. Wow.
And it was a great suit, believe me, a really good suit. It's all cut up, and you're going to get a piece of it. Collector's item. This is
That part.
something to give to your family, to your kids, and grandchildren.
The piece of the
With
suit.
purchase of
Oh,
40
I love the
I just-
guy. I don't know. I
Oh my
read all
goodness.
that, and then it's the Trump Bible, and I'm like, well, of course. That's
See-
where we are. That's who this guy is.
Yeah. the thing
I
for-
find it endearing. I don't
It's
know.
Really, the thing for
Yeah.
me, when you get to the pieces of the suit, you know what I went back to? I went back to my childhood and seeing the TV shows and seeing the preachers on there talking about how if
Yeah.
you send us so much money, I'll send you a splinter from the actual cross that Jesus was crucified on. Cross splinters. That's what I heard. I heard Trump hawking cross
You are
splinters
Catholic.
there.
You're
Oh, yeah.
definitely Catholic if
Oh,
you've
yeah.
heard that.
Yes, I have. And
Look-
the thing for me, the Bible that Trump has got, the thing that I really want to know is it like the traditionally said King James version? But I think it would make a heck of a lot more sense if it was pop-up. Because, you know, if you get to the point where it's the birth of Jesus and there comes Trump along with the wise men, they've got gold, frankincense, myrrh, and Trump steaks. And then the part where, you know, where Jesus goes out, like you said, walks across the water, you can pull it, and Jesus, followed by Trump, glides across the water.
Trump in his yacht.
Yeah, and then also it could be the idea that, you know, during the fishes, the idea that, oh my gosh, not only was Jesus helping to distribute fishes and wine, but it also was Trump vodka and home copies of the Trump game. I mean, he could be handing those out as well. There could be lots of things we could do here. I mean, I'm just saying there's a whole marketing opportunity for a pop-up version of the Bible with Trump.
We have some funny text here. Trump steaks are smaller than he claims they are. So, look, if Trump was saying that this was the only true Bible, that all the other Bibles were the worst Bibles, this is the true Bible, then obviously it would be heresy. If Trump was selling indulgences and said, give me money and I'll pray for you and God will hear those prayers, or you'll get, you know, God's blessing if you donate
That's
to
a
my
real
campaign.
Catholic thing. You know about us. We don't actually not want to do the sins.
Somebody did do
Yes,
that.
we just
but
need to
it
pay
wasn't
for
Trump.
the sins.
And I'll say this. I would like Joe Biden to come out with the Joe Biden Bible, so long as it's not edited,
Oh, that'd be
changed,
interesting.
and sold his. I'd be happy too. I would love to live in a country
Yeah.
where we have dueling presidential candidates trying to get you to buy their versions of the
Wow.
Bible.
Oh,
That's an
wow.
America I want to live in. And if Craig Silverman calls me a Christian nationalist for that, then I don't know. There we go.
Then again, it's Silverman. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about that one? I think it's weird that he's almost branding it, and the idea of rolling in Lee Greenwood and the Make America Great Again Bible type of thing. It's a weird brand for me to roll the politics into the religion in such a close relationship. I find that, I mean, in all honesty, I wouldn't say distasteful, but uncomfortable. That rolling in that a political party then determines specific religions. And only reason I bring that up right now is just had a phone call off the air of someone that said things about conservatives and Christians and then said bad things. And I'm like, but hang on a sec here. And that was kind of what they're going after, was that a true Christian can't be a conservative, or conservative can't be a Christian, or this. And I'm like, wait. I disagree with that. I disagree with that type of, I don't know. It's weird. Is it weird that we have the presidential candidate telling you to buy his version of the Bible, and then he places the Bill of Rights next to it and the Constitution in the Bible? Is that?
Well, you could go buy the Thomas Jefferson version of the Bible, which, is cut out. If you guys don't know the history of that, he cut out all the kind of divine miracles. And so, I mean, he's, in my mind, that's way worse.
That's a good point.
When you're cutting up pieces of the Bible and trying to believe it. And that's where I would draw a line with Trump.
Yeah.
Is if Trump starts getting into this and going, I've come up with an improved version of the Bible, or I've taken pieces and edited out portions of the Bible, then I would have concerns about it. But I would like to live in a country where I have both presidential candidates selling
he tells
Bibles on their stores.
He tells that story about how Trump is there pushing and rolls back the rock and then goes inside and sees Jesus is gone.
It was Trump that rolled
yes,
it.
It was.
Oh, boy. You guys haven't read the Book of Mormon, have you? I have not read the Book of Mormon, actually. 5311.
Are we talking about? I was thinking the Book of Mormon. I was thinking the play, the Trey Parker Van Stone thing. I'm like, that's where I went to first.
I love my parents. They took me to that play, and you could see it's. I live a life like Mike Pence. Okay, I follow the Billy Graham rules. I'm generally pretty straight laced, so my parents took me to that. And I can see them on the look on their face, being like, oh no.
Yeah, this is not what we were expecting. Yeah.
We have another son who would be great at this play, but our Rick Santorum, Mike Pence son.
Yeah, it's like, it's like note to self, read the synopsis first.
I know, because it gets a little inappropriate.
Oh, does it
with
ever?
The tribes and all that stuff.
Does it ever? Yes.
Oh, man. So what do you think? A form of denigrating the Bible and Christianity for Donald Trump to be selling the Bible along with steaks and water and Trump University and vodka and his airlines? Or are you happy to see a presidential candidate stand with the Bible and say, hey, I'm willing to put my name on this and promote it, and I'm happy to do so? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Speaking of quality products, we all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented, non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for their health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the natural grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial with no strings attached. Wondering about the research? You can get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right. Donald Trump may be America's top Bible salesman. We played some audio from him, and then all the other things that he's selling as well.
There's a lot of them. Is it a sign of the apocalypse that Donald Trump is hawking Bibles? Is this it? Is this somewhere Revelations? That somewhere there? I don't know.
Oh, man.
The man with the golden shoes says I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious.
I would love to hear from anybody who's ever bought anything from him, whether it's trading cards, steaks, ties, vodka. Did you fly on his airline? Did you buy the Trump game? Have you been a purchaser, a consumer of products sold by Donald Trump? I'd love to hear your experience with that. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I'd love for Joe Biden to sell Bibles too.
Yeah,
I'm a
that.
Bible dude. If our country, and here's an interesting point.
Yeah.
How many people do you think that have never read the Bible will buy this Bible? And maybe they won't read it. Maybe they won't, but maybe some will. Maybe some souls will be saved because of this. That's why I wouldn't mind Joe Biden selling Bibles either.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't. I would like souls to be saved. And if someone buys a Joe Biden Bible, so long as the word's not changed, right? It doesn't bother me. So I know some people feel like this was sacrilegious. I don't think it was.
Yeah, it's a weird confluence of bringing politics and religion together in such a strong way.
Yeah.
It's a weird connection between the two. And I think it's going to be really, really strong for Trump's base. But there are stories like this that I think those persuadable voters that are out there are going to be somewhat
He's just hawking.
This.
He doesn't really care. He doesn't really believe this stuff.
And some of that are things like people that have some disagreements. This is this is probably not appropriate because I'm not convinced this voting bloc is going to abandon Biden like people are saying. But those that are upset about Biden's role defending Israel in Gaza. There was that whole protest vote, and people are going, "Oh my gosh, he's losing these voters. He's losing these voters." I'm like, you think they're choosing Trump? You think they're choosing RFK Jr.? I mean, that's what they're going to do. I mean, I can see them sitting out. But for those people that are upset about Joe Biden not supporting Israel, this Trump Bible thing, if they see that, probably pushes them closer back to Joe and go, at least it's not that. But it's only a thought. And again, I'm partially stupid. So
Trump, 6430, Trump is a huckster. They disagree. They agree with your assessment. Sorry. I disagree with that. I don't mind him selling it. Men, you've heard a lot about how treating low testosterone can help improve your sleep, your workouts, your energy levels, and more. But I want to talk to you about your love drive, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can be a real problem. There's good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers. It only takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, a Colorado licensed medical provider, where we'll review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment is only $99, which includes medical consult, T and PSA test. And if you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Call them today at 720-440-7900, 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. I was down visiting these guys and getting to know our advertisers, and I saw men from every walk of life coming in there. Guys literally dressed in construction suits and guys in suits. Guys in pajamas, guys in athletic outfits, all coming in.
Here's the thing, though. That is a waiting area that's really awkward to make eye contact in. I mean, everybody's staring at their shoes. I'm just saying. I think everybody's staring at their shoes there.
Thank you, Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. Speaking of vice presidential candidates, Robert F. K's pick yesterday. Do you think that was good for Robert F. Kennedy? Do you think it was good for Donald Trump or Joe Biden? I'm pulling up the name of the person that he picked yesterday. Nicole Shanahan as his running mate. And I think all of America went, who? Now, I listened to her speech, and her speech was far more appealing to the left. So I think in some cases it was a misstep for the RFK campaign because nobody really knows who this is, and there's not a lot of energy or excitement about it. But if you're a disinfected, that's the wrong word.
But I need that sometimes.
Disengaged? What's the word?
Maybe disaffected. Yeah.
If
but
you're
I like
a disaffected Democrat.
It's much better for us. There's a lot of disinfection I need at times.
If there's a disaffected Democrat.
I did it to you again.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be in my head. We're going to have to work on that. A disaffected Democrat who looks at Nicole Shanahan and sees that she's appealing more to a liberal base because she's funded a lot of criminal justice reform stuff, environmental things. Does that appeal to her? And is this a problem for Joe Biden? Do you think RFK is a problem for Joe Biden, Bill?
Yeah, I don't think that he's a problem for Joe. I think he's more of a problem for Trump, honestly.
Really? Even with this vice presidential pick? I mean, I was kind of intrigued by the RFK campaign. I'm a Trump supporter. I was like, I was looking over the fence going, is the grass greener?
And that is exactly why I think that he has the ability to do more damage to Trump, because everybody that I've seen and talked to, again, only anecdotal, and I can be wrong about this, but in my personal experience, the people that are doing that window shopping are all conservatives. I have not encountered more than maybe 1 or 2 Democrats that are even considering window shopping for RFK. And those that I did encounter, it wasn't very serious. They were curious about it. And part of that being because RFK during COVID was much more touting what you would say would be the conservative line about vaccines and masks and shutdowns and things like that. So from what I've talked to in the Democrats, that soured his brand. That they still have a bad taste in their mouth based on that. And they say, now you're coming to me and saying, you're the guy that understands me and you're going to do what I need. When during this situation, I'm not talking about what is right or wrong. I'm just saying what they wanted and what they felt should happen. RFK was fighting against that. So he has to overcome that. And I think bringing in the rich lady doesn't help. I don't think that's going to paint that.
I don't know who that helps at all.
Yes,
definitely with
conservatives.
With conservatives, you're like, all right. Well, that was fun. Back to Trump.
Yeah, because you have a lot more political strategy experience than I ever could hope to have. Talk to me about the conversation to get to this person. How do you get there in that room? What are the conversations and how do you make that choice?
I can't wrap my mind around it other than the $4 million she gave to RFK for the Super Bowl ad, because she brings resources, right? So she's willing to bring resources to the campaign. She's willing to help out. She's passionate about RFK. And that's about it.
And so she's rich.
Right?
Yeah, wow.
So, I mean, it's not a state that they're targeting, right? It's not the leader of a state.
Yeah.
It's not a compelling major celebrity like an
not at
Aaron
all.
Rodgers that they were looking at, where now you pick Aaron Rodgers and conservatives are now going,
yeah, exactly.
And now Trump's got to go, I've got to get somebody really big. But there is, and Jen Ellis tweeted this yesterday, at this point, does Trump have to pick a woman? Because RFK has a female vice president. Joe Biden has a female vice president. Is Trump now forced to do a female vice president?
I would think.
Ben Carson, no option.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, I need you to put on your strategy hat for me. What I need from you, the information that I'm trying to understand is it transactional enough or legitimate enough to put that woman next to Trump, whoever that is, as the vice president? And what I'm thinking is the idea being you persuade those suburban women that have fallen away. Is that the play? And can it be effective?
It's one line of argument. So if you look at who Trump lost the most in 2020, it was suburban women.
Yeah.
So can you go get a Sarah Palin? It doesn't really appeal to them, right? So you can't get a rock-ribbed conservative woman. You can't put a Carrie Lake in there.
Okay.
You could, but I think Carrie's fine. But if that's who you're going for, like suburban college-educated women who has his biggest deficit with, then it makes all the argument for a Tulsi Gabbard.
It's a good
point. Because Tulsi can kind of play that. I was a Democrat. I ran as a president as a Democrat.
Yeah.
I served as a member of Congress as a Democrat. I feel your pain.
Oh, that's good. And that was a great line from Clinton. Now, one thing now I want to look at this, if I'm seeing some of the political landscape correct or not, is I often view these choices of running mates and positions being about looking for permission. And what I mean by that is you're positioning yourself to give the voter permission to vote for you.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I think a Tulsi Gabbard would do, is it would give those disaffected Democrat women permission to cross over to Trump, that I don't think a Ben Carson or a Vivek Ramaswamy or something like that gives them that same permission.
Right. So think Joe Biden and Barack Obama.
Yes.
Why did he pick Joe Biden? Do you remember?
White dude. Again, it is transactional and of course
it was you're too young, lack of experience, and you're not going to be able to get anything through Congress, right? It supplemented a weakness.
So you needed the old white guy.
So you needed a guy. Well, you needed a guy that's been around a long time,
absolutely,
right, and knows how DC works.
They found the really, really old guy.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you look at a weakness and you try to address it. Okay. So Mike Pence and Trump in 2016.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The religious side of it.
Are you really, and who's the biggest voting bloc in the Republican Party?
Yeah.
Evangelicals that make up 30% of the Republican Party. So where's the weakness? That's, Ben Carson. Yeah. I mean,
so you're
stable.
saying that if Trump would come out and say that he's transitioning and becoming a female candidate, then he'd be good. I'm teasing. I'm totally teasing. But wow,
I would love to watch NBC read that headline.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Wait, what? Oh, how do we respond to this?
Yeah. Oh, how good would it be though as a Saturday Night Live skit where you'd have Joe Biden and Trump in drag doing something competing to be I'm sorry
for the LGBT.
Yeah, it would be so
that
good.
Goes back to my one of my favorite Saturday Night Live skits of all time.
What is that?
Was Tom Hanks on Black Jeopardy.
Oh yes.
Do you remember that one?
Yes. Just their Jeopardy ones in general are fantastic. The Tom Hanks one was
where they all
really
start
good.
to agree with them until the very end.
Yeah, very end. Oh God. Yes. Oh gosh, yes. Yeah. The entire Jeopardy one. You go back to Will Ferrell doing I will take a therapist for 500. It's like that's therapist. Whatever. Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard is just a leftist globalist. She'd be another Judas Pence.
But Texter, could she persuade those disaffected women that you need to get Trump in the White House? And the question I have is, are you letting the perfect be the enemy of the good? Because you disagree so deeply with Tulsi, are you unwilling to say, maybe we need that player on our team in order to get into the end zone? It's the Bill Romanowski rule. Yeah. He is an a-hole until he puts on your jersey. Then he's a fighter and a warrior, and he's our guy, and he's being persecuted. But he's on the other team. Oh, he's a cheater. Maybe that's it.
And if he picked her, would you not vote for Donald Trump as a result of that?
Oh,
seriously? Would you be like, I'm going to sit this one out and let Joe Biden have another vote?
That's the thing, is let Joe. Yeah, that's the idea. Is we always hear that if you're not flipping that, for either the Democrat or the Republican, you're actually voting in part for the opposite choice. That's interesting. That's cutting off your nose by your face in some places,
right? Jeff, I would recommend he pick Donald Trump Jr. because he knows he won't stab him in the back. That's a lot of Trump on one ticket. That's a lot of Trump on one ticket.
That if he picked Donald Trump Jr., for me, that would torpedo his campaign.
I almost would agree.
Yeah,
with you
and the reason why is, for me, and again, being an independent voter, but my feelings about Donald Trump are not a secret. But what I feel is that establishes a royalty line of succession. That's what that does. That's what I see by picking your son. You're saying this is no longer
like the pick. Then.
Yeah, but the issue is it's a royalty line of succession, meaning that it's mine, and then it's going to be my son's. That this is a prize I have that I'm going to will and bequeath to somebody, not ask you to choose. And that's what I see in a pick of Donald Trump Jr., pick of the son, would be, this is my birthright to be the president, and I'm then going to bequeath it to my sons, and he's going to have the birthright. This is no longer about the choice the voters make. That's what I see with
family, the Trump family.
Exactly.
Then I kind of like that idea. All right,
and that scares me.
For those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just a very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. Your own very natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Go to advancedhair.com, 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com. All right, we'll get to your calls and text. Let's see. Trump needs somebody like a Tucker or Charlie Kirk or Vivek Ramaswamy. It would be a dynamic duo. We need somebody who's a warrior against communism, not an evangelist for it. I have a hard time seeing Tulsi as evangelist for communism. I've hosted her twice at the summit. She spent all weekend with Western conservatives. She feels perfectly fine at home. She may not be all the way in the camp of, a Charlie or a Tucker, but I don't think she's an evangelist for communists.
The thing that I look at is if you're going to go hardcore and tack harder to the right and look for someone, again, that is more pure, you're doing the Joe O'Dea, Ron Hanks argument. And with all respect to Hanks, there's no way he was going to come close to Michael Bennet. Joe O'Dea had a better shot based on the playing field. Based on the playing field, going more conservative and going with someone that echoes exactly what Trump says, that's going to be a harder sell because we already know that a large portion of the electorate rejects Trump on face. And you got to get those middle ground persuadable voters. And if it is just something that is a ditto of Trump, I'm not sure you win those. I'm not convinced you can win those with that. But,
fair critique. All right, give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. 52 today, 65 tomorrow, 62 possible showers on Friday, 58 on Saturday, Sunday, 63 on Easter Sunday. So It'll be a nice day.
Oh, it'll be beautiful.
All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. Let's get to Robert in Littleton. Robert, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. I think with regard to a potential running mate for Trump, you got to realize a couple things. One, there's a very finite pool of voters. There are very, very few undecided voters. And although I really like Vivek Ramaswamy, I think is smart, well-spoken, all those things. But anybody that would have voted for Vivek was already going to vote for Trump. So he doesn't bring anything additional to the table.
Good point.
Same thing with like a Kristi Noem or a Carrie Lake. Again, I like them, but that pool, you're pulling from the same pool.
Yeah, Robert, and I've said this again, winning elections is getting the most people on the bus more than the other guy.
It is. Tulsi Gabbard, I think, is an interesting thought. The problem is I think he will actually lose voters because people that would have voted for him are going to go, whoa, wait a second. This chick's kind of crazy, and I know what she stood for because she has a long public record, and might actually walk away because of that. But I think that there are some other.
Who would be your pick? We got about 30 seconds here. Who would be your pick?
Honestly, I cannot remember the lady's name. She's from Louisiana. She was like an assistant governor, or not assistant governor, a councilwoman down there. God, her name escapes me through the life of me.
Huh.
Interesting.
I just can't think. Winsome Sears is another one, although I don't think Winsome Sears would qualify because she's not a native-born American.
It's like Scott Walker.
Sears is smart,
I didn't know that.
Real smart.
I didn't know that about it. Winsome. Where was she born?
I think she was born in Jamaica, if memory serves.
Well, it's like Scott Walker dropping the op-ed on the governor of Iowa. Everyone's like, huh.
Yeah.
All right.
No, Tony Ernst. They're not Tony Ernst.
No, I don't know I don't know her name, but just kind of those names that come out of nowhere. I mean, Sarah Palin was kind of that way too.
She was, but Sarah Palin also had kind of a nutty streak to her that I think turned a lot of people off.
Yeah, I think that was towards the end of the campaign. Early on, though, she provided the energy boost. I was at the RNC convention in Minneapolis in 2008, and McCain was struggling with grassroots conservatives and energy and all that, and Palin brought it. But anyways, Robert, thanks so much for the call. Friends, it's been a wonderful show connecting with you. If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com. You can
Don't
download.
miss that 6 o'clock hour.
That's 6 o'clock. It was a wrestling match. Up next is Charlie Kirk. You're not going to want to miss him. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great day.